Hello everyone, welcome back. Get comfortable, relax, and enjoy today's exciting fanfic. Now, let's begin part 2. Deep within the ravine, Naruto looked himself over and saw the tremendous changes that overgone his body. He flexed his arm outward and back. He looked to see his stature was now much bigger than it was before, taller than he expected to be. Looking at his hair, he saw the black highlights in them making him quirk an eyebrow, but he did feel the hair, it felt more like a lion's mane. That's when he felt the immense power flowing through and around him. It was like a maelstrom of power flowing in him, ready to burst out at any moment. Looking at the obliterated wall made him think. Well, this is an unexpected change, but that's not important right now. First off, Konoha took Kushina-chan, that's one reason to destroy them all, but the way I am right now, one mistake could kill and destroy so many. That's when he pulled out a locket Iroh gave him before he escaped with Kushina. He knew it all too well. Flipping it open, he smiled warmly, seeing himself with Kushina in a picture on the right side, smiling with her in his arms. Stroking the picture gently, Naruto frowned. I've got to train these powers and master them, cause if I don't, who knows what would happen if I made the slightest mistake. But what of Kushina? No, they won't hurt her. She's too precious to them. Bastards will get theirs. He closed the locket, not looking at the other picture, for it was for Kushina's eyes only. Besides, he knew what was on the other side. Looking around himself, he saw most of his belongings either trashed by the fall or destroyed by the explosion. Looking into his vest, he saw the scroll Iroh gave him along with the one he sealed up his and Kushina's own books and scrolls. Placing them back inside the vest pocket, Naruto looked up to see the night sky. He wondered how long he had been down here, but shook his head, not really caring, only to get his powers mastered and get Kushina back. Time to start training. The sooner I have them mastered, the sooner I can get Kushi-chan back. With that, Naruto started unsealing many camping supplies, marking the once site where he was supposedly killed, his new home for the next few years. Konoha would never know that their number one enemy was still alive and practically under their noses. Konohagakure Hokage office. It's been 3 days since Sarutobi sent out his students along with most of his forces to secure Uzumaki Kushina and to kill Uzumaki D. Naruto. Since then, Hiruzen has been very jumpy lately. He believed truly he did his students killed Naruto, the very man that scared even him. But even still, he had a feeling that something was wrong, something out of place. Looking over at his couch, he saw the still unconscious form of Uzumaki Kushina, last remaining Uzumaki and container of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. He heard of how the Z-ranked shinobi fought to protect Kushina. The reports all shocked him to his very core. The man fought like he was possessed, nothing could take him down. Jutsu, weapons, taijutsu, genjutsu, nothing. Even Jiraiya summoned thingamabob did nothing, if only angered Naruto further. He was speechless when Jiraiya told him of how he practically manhandled Gamabunta. He heard of how he took Gamabunta's own weapon and swung it back, making a scar over the giant toad's left eye. He looked over at Kushina and spoke so quietly. Why would that man fight so hard to protect you? I wonder, was it something concerning you, or was it out of his own personal feelings? He mused outwardly, needing to know why a man of such power and fame would protect someone like her. Was it that he was an Uzumaki as well? Was that he was sent to protect her? It frustrated him greatly of why the man fought to protect her so greatly. Shaking his head, he looked back to his desk to read the reports from his spies all across the elemental nations. It was all reported that Konoha was the one to finally kill the legendary man himself. They had sent out a force bigger and stronger than both Iwa and Kumo's combined to kill the man. Well, that was what they told the public, but in reality it was a mission to capture Kushina. True, Konoha suddenly got many enemies from the countries that saw the man as a hero but weren't brave enough to start a fight with them. But they did receive the title, strongest shinobi village in the whole elemental nations, since they were the ones to kill a man capable of beating a Biju. Yes, they used underhanded tactics, but he's dead and gone, never to bother them and scare him again. Right. As Hiruzen was looking at the reports in thought, he never saw the glowing of Jiraiya's seal upon Kushina's neck crack halfway through before disappearing once more. 10 years later. It has been 10 years since the death of Uzumaki D. Naruto, number one most hated shinobi of Iowa, Kumo and Konoha. Ever since then, Konoha took pride in its title of being the strongest and proved it time and time again in the war. Ever since Naruto's death, it put quite a halt on the war all around since it was such shock to many. Though over the years Konoha has let their fame go to their heads and made many arrogant thinking they were invincible after killing a god-like being those years ago. With only a select few within knowing how false all that was, knowing the man could have easily destroyed them. But a few things has happened after all these years. Strange events have been popping up with a few countries including AIM and Kiri. The rumored complete and utter defeat of Hanzo the Salamander, and the civil war starting all over again, this time with a new Kage following in the few steps of his predecessor. Strangely enough though, Kumo's hatred over Naruto began to dwindle over time since his death. It would seem Naruto finally gained a very high respect of the Raikage after his accomplishments against Konoha. Despite being mortal enemies, the Raikage held a great respect for the man for the things he done against Konoha. The ravine itself, the place where Naruto was killed, was soon upon by many votes by many countries and feudal lords that were great friends to Naruto marked it as his tombstone, for being the only true place a being like Naruto should be buried. What better place to honor a man that beat a Biju than to mark the place of his death, than the great scar made from a Biju's attack? But with one appearance, will shock the very nations themselves. Forest of High no Kuni road to Konohagakure. Walking on the dirt road to Konohagakure, was a cloaked man. He stood at any normal human height of 5 feet 8 or so. The cloak covered up the whole of the man's body. The way the man moved though told a different story from him looking totally normal in height. He moved like a fighter, an experienced soldier ready for the quickest ambush of any kind. This would unnerve many people, but it's usually common in the land of shinobi, so some just pass it off being it normal. The thing was though that this man wasn't normal by any means. Raising his head a bit, you could see the blackness of the cloak shadowing the man's face, but that's when his eyes. The eyes would make any person, whether they be civilian, shinobi, Kage or even Biju, feel like nothing but an ant facing a giant tsunami. The overwhelming look in the man's golden amber slitted eyes just told you he wasn't normal. It practically screamed danger and would make any lesser man die of pure fear. With each step he took, the wind would blow past him, ruffling his cloak and making the trees rustle in the wind. Each time his eyes looked at the closing distance of Konoha, a great black hot hate would glow brightly in his eyes, making even the skies themselves part way. Each time his body seemed to pulsate in a strange wind, the ground would gradually crack or the trees themselves would start to uproot. I'm coming, Kushi-chan, and soon we'll be together again, and this time I won't fail you, Iroh, or anyone else ever again. Konoha was about to be rocked to its very core by this man's appearance alone. Konoha main gates. Standing at the gates were 2 chunin on guard duty, the number one most hated job for any shinobi. It was the most boring thing any shinobi had to do. These 2 chunin were no exception, except for the fact this time their guard duty was about to get interesting. The wind suddenly blew past them as they saw a black cloaked figure coming in sight of them. They both felt a little tense seeing the strange cloaked figure. After all, a war was going on, so they were suspicious of what was around them. When the cloaked man was right in front of them though, they felt relieved to see it looked to be a normal person. That cost them greatly, since you don't judge a book by its cover. The man raised his head at them and flashed his eyes at them, and with a sudden pulse of wind they both flinched before falling back, passed out, eyes rolled to the back of their heads and foam coming out of their mouths. Looking down at the chunin, the man shook his head in disapproval. Pathetic was the only word the man said before he entered the village, masking his signature from the patrolling shinobi and barrier watchers. As the man came into Konoha, his eyes quickly surveyed all of the things in front of him, memorizing them perfectly. He saw all the civilians, the patrolling shinobi and the children all playing around like nothing was happening on the outside of these walls. The blissful smiles on their faces and carefree attitudes showed around him. The fools, arrogant in their belief they're invincible, and all because of a simple lie. Distaste and anger was full in his mouth. That's when he saw the Uzu no Kuni symbols upon their backs. The hatred in his eyes rose to monumental heights for that. That's when the man closed his eyes, reaching with his chakra sensory, trying to find the one person he came for. The slight widening of his eyes was the only reaction that was seen, but Also the burning anger that flashed in his eyes also showed before his form just disappeared in nothing but a simple gust of wind. Appearing over in the trees above, the man's cloaked form was looking down at what seemed like a training ground sorts. But what he was looking at was what was important, for it was a total of 8 people in general, with 2 of them being Junin shinobi. He recognized the 2 Junin shinobi as Jiraiya of the Sennin and the other as Tsukumo Hatake. Looking at the others was a bunch of teenagers he didn't really care about right now. All he cared about right now was the 2 people in the middle of the training ground sparring. The first one was something that made him shocked a bit but shook it off. It was a teenager that had golden spiky hair with 2 large bangs coming down the sides of his face, and his eyes were that of azure blue. He had a Chunin vest on and blue shinobi pants and a blue long-sleeved shinobi shirt with the vest over it. He finished of the look with blue shinobi sandals and a kunai pouch on his left thigh. The other person though was his greatest concern, for who he was looking at was losing pretty badly in the spar. It was a woman that by all means defined perfection. She had the height of 5 feet 8 with long silky maroon hair. Her face was perfectly heart-shaped with the greatest shade of violet anyone would ever see in her eyes. She had a perfect slender petite body with a bust showing at least small D cup. She was wearing the normal Konoha attire. As he watched her, he saw the dark marking upon the back of her neck which was invisible to many, but to him it was as clear as day. Thus it made him grit his teeth in anger knowing what that kind of seal was, but he did see the damage as was in it was halfway through breaking already. This made him smile since he knew that the only person to have put that seal on the woman was none other than Jiraiya, and what a lousy job he did. You've grown so beautiful, Kushina, and strong too, but that seal hinders all the power you had back then, and knowledge and memories of me as well. A female shout interrupted his musings. Looking down, his eyes flashed brightly when he saw the blonde man teen doing hand seals toward a downed and exhausted form of Kushina. Recognizing the hand seals and looking to see Jiraiya letting it happen made him step into action. I don't want to do this, but on sensei's orders she must be held down and by pain if necessary. Jiraiya though watching what his student was about to do. He saw Tsukumo about to jump in only to give him a glare saying, no. That's when he saw the speed black blur pop out of the forest right when Minato shouted out his jutsu. Raiden. Toru no Hanma. Lightning release. Thor's hammer, he said before a massive lightning-shaped hammer shot out of the sky and directly as Kushina. It wasn't lethal, but it would assuredly would injure her greatly. Too bad, since the black blur Jiraiya suddenly appeared in front of Kushina terrified form with his back facing her. When they all saw this they tried to stop the oncoming jutsu, but it would seem Minato put a tad too much chakra in that attack. Kushina herself watched this cloaked man appear in front of her about to take the hit that was meant for her. That was until she heard the man's voice. Don't worry, Kushina-chan, I won't let you get hurt anymore, was the words she heard him speak. It confused her, but that's when she felt she knew this voice before. As the lighting hammer came at them she held her head in pain. Flashback. Come on, Kushina-chan, you're stronger than this, I know it. You can do it, Kushina-chan, you're strong, I believe in you. You've gotten stronger, Kushi-chan, soon you'll catch up to me. I love you, Kushi-chan, never forget. I'll always love you, Kushi-hime, never forget me. The same voice resounded this time, showing just who this person was. It was a male that looked almost exactly like Minato, only this person looked much more friendly than that Hokage crazed Namikaze. His blue-flecked golden slit eyes stared upon her with love, something she hasn't felt before. That is until he spoke once more. Kushi-hime, do you remember the promise we made to each other when we were just kids? That's when she saw, to her shock, she saw her younger 8-year-old self appear in front of her. She saw her grin widely before speaking. Of course I do. We promised we would get married when we were older and I always keep my promises, Databane. Her younger self shouted before seeing the man himself smile and opened up his arms, confused at the action she watched, surprised when her younger self ran and jumped into his arms, kissing his cheek. She for some reason felt a blush come upon her face. When she took in the whole man's body, he looked so handsome. She could see his body was restrained by the clothing he wore, and his muscled and chiseled body was stretching the fabric of his clothing. That's when she felt someone looking at her, so looking up she to her shock saw her younger self and the blonde Adonis looking at her with amused eyes. It's time you awoke, Kushina. Please awaken and remember, the blonde man started with her younger self taking over. Who you truly are, and remember the person we both loved all those years ago is by your side now. And with a final look from the two they both spoke in unison. Awaken, Kushina. Flashback end. The seal on the back of Kushina's neck glowed rapidly while cracking even more before it shattered. Kushina suddenly saw so many things, remembered the places she's been, who she truly was, who her father was, everything. The final memory was of her and Naruto kissing before she was separated from him by Tsunade. Within her mindscape when the seal shattered, the once bloodlust Biju Kyuubi was now blinking in confusion at the sudden rush of memories as well. When they finally passed, its giant red crimson eyes widened with realization. Then its giant nine-tailed form glowed brightly before shrinking down to a more humanoid figure. When the glow dimmed, it showed a beautiful woman that tied with Kushina herself. She had the body of a goddess, her perfect hourglass figure would make any straight man or gay die of a nosebleed. Her D-cup busy was out in full view, barely with much hidden by her royal blood-red kimono, though it showed much of her cleavage. She had long silky smooth red hair, it being a bit more lighter than Kushina's. Her face was carved from perfection and her eyes were that of a crimson red with a fox slit within. Smirking, showing her abnormally large fangs, the goddess-like woman spoke. I knew Naru-kun would come back, and from what I'm sensing from him he's gotten a lot more powerful than he was 10 years ago. On the outside world, Kushina rapidly blinked her eyes, adjusting her head with the now revealed memories until she remembered the situation she was in. Looking up, her eyes widened at seeing the Raiden Jutsu just a foot away from the cloaked man who she knew was Naruto. GGGE, only to be cut off when the man spoke again. Don't worry, you might need to remember a bit more, but something as trivial as this can't even scratch me, he said, already knowing the seal on her neck was gone. She was silent as he raised his right hand palm outwards. Something weak would only give me a slight tingle. With that, to her shock and Kyuubi's surprise, he swung his hand. On the opposite side of the giant jutsu, Minato, Jiraiya, Tsukumo and the others watched horrified at what was about to happen. That guy needs to get out of there. Minato exclaimed, not wanting to have a civilian's death on his hands due to an accident. I agree, especially with a jutsu like that, it could kill not only him but Kushina as well. Tsukumo said. Wait. Something's not right. Jiraiya exclaimed with a narrowed-eyed look in his eyes. This god looks from them all, the teen with long dark raven hair and coal-black eyes wearing the same thing as Kushina, Uchiha Makoto and Kushina's best friend stated. What do you mean? She said, only for a sound for Jiraiya's eyes to go wide greatly. She along with the others followed his gaze and saw what he was seeing. The giant lightning-shaped hammer were slowly sliced in half by the hand of the cloaked stranger. They watched as the man just literally swatted one of the most deadly Raiden jutsu known to all away like it was nothing. Many gawked at what they just seen, but the sudden explosion from the destroyed jutsu blew up, making smoke blow up around the cloaked stranger and Kushina. As the smoke cleared up, it showed the cloaked man standing exactly where he was, with Kushina looking at his form with so many emotions as was impossible to identify even one of them. Tears did swell up in her eyes for some reason, to the confusion of the Konoha nin. In Naruto-kun, she spoke hesitantly, wanting to know if the cloaked person before her was the same person she remembers from the sudden rush of memories that she made that promise to, the one she was in love with all those years ago. Before Konoha separated them, none of the Konoha knew what she said except for one person. Jiraiya, and his eyes were as wide as they could possibly be. The small flicker of fear was appearing in his eyes when he heard that man's name. All records and bingo books were destroyed with that man's name, so the next generation would never know of the one that scared the great Konohagakure so much. So it was with a great fear that Jiraiya stared at the cloaked figure with a look of extreme concentration rarely ever seen on the pervert's face before. Tsukumo saw this and got very tense of what was to come, since he too knew of Naruto and his legendary status and actions in the war dating back since he was but a child. It honestly scared him to his very soul. He's never met him but knew even he wouldn't win that fight. No matter how strong he was. You just can't beat someone that has beaten a Biju single-handedly. Naruto heard Kushina and a feeling of warmth filled his once cold emotionless body. Over the last 10 years he has forever closed up his heart and bent toward getting stronger, always training and never stopping. To getting stronger and gain the one he loved the most back, even if he reclaimed his title as the most feared being in all of the shinobi nations. So it was a quick surprise when Naruto's cloaked form turned to Kushina and kneeled before her. I told you, I'd come back for you, Kushi-hime. It just took me a bit longer than I thought it would, he said, but she didn't care. She just smiled happily as tears went down her face. She didn't care how long it took Naruto to come back for her. All she cared about was that he was here now, and wouldn't be leaving her ever again. Though she did wonder what changes he's gone through over the last 10 years, no matter how much he changed, she knew it was Naruto. From the same familiarity and power she knew when she was a child from back then was the same even now, if only much stronger and perfectly controlled than before. Though when she looked at his shadowed face she saw his eyes, they honestly sent a shiver down her spine. Seeing such eyes, she wasn't scared of them. If anything, she thought they made the mental image she had of him from before 10 years ago all the more handsome. Naruto-kun, can I see your face? It's been so long since I've seen you. I want to see your face again, the face of the same man I fell in love with all those years ago, she said with Naruto gently taking her hand, rubbing circles with thumb gently. My appearance, you wish to see it? He got a nod from her and with a simple flick of his hood, it fell completely off, showing the face of Uzumaki D. Naruto, aka the Kami no Saigai to Senso, god of disaster and war, and first ever Z-ranked shinobi in history. Jiraiya's face morphed into complete horror while his face quickly paled. It was like he was seeing a ghost from the past. The kid hadn't changed a single bit from 10 years ago. Indeed, Naruto's face was the exact same way as 10 years ago along with everything else. Kushina though could see the disguise on him and frowned. Having her memories come back made her old fiery personality from back then flare up, making her usual one Konoha nose pale in comparison. When she was about to speak, Naruto stopped her by holding his hand to her mouth. Wait, Kushi-chan, first we need to deal with these bastards. Konoha deserves to pay for taking you away from me, and they shall pay, he said, his eyes shadowed by his hair. Kushina's violet eyes softened before flickering her eyes over her team, and frowned. She always wondered why most of them had that look in their eyes when they talked or when they first met in the academy, but she had no doubt they were put up to become friends with her so she would feel welcomed into the village. Her eyes landed on the only one she trusted even now, and that was Makoto Uchiha. Despite her being of Konoha, she was still the most loyal person she has ever got the chance to meet. She couldn't possibly let Naruto kill her. Naru-kun, please, don't hurt Makoto. That's all I ask of you, she said, getting Naruto's attention. Looking down at the red head in his arms, he snapped his gaze at the Uchiha and made a mental note not to kill her. But I will keep my eye on you. Very well then. You have my word, he said, only for their moment to be ruined when they heard someone shout. You, what are you doing here? I thought we killed you. Jiraiya screamed in pure fear and outrage. Minato looked at his sensei in curiosity before asking. Sensei? What's wrong? Who is he? And how does he know Kushina Baka? He said, only to feel an unbearable pressure weigh upon him, making him gasp. Turning his head in that direction, he not only found the golden amber slitted eyes of Naruto glaring him down but also the violet ones of Kushina. Did you just call me a baka namikaze? Kushina said, spitting out the word namikaze like it was poison. Minato gulped audibly. Don't fret, Kushi-chan. He is of no worry. He's as weak and pathetic as Konoha's other shinobi, Naruto said, knowing he insulted Konoha right in front of its very own shinobi. He got the reaction he wanted when the teen called Minato growled at him. What did you say? Why insult Konoha? What have we ever done to you? Naruto just blinked before chuckling. Standing up, Kushina watched when Naruto's chuckle turned from humor to hollow. It sent chills down many of their spines when they heard it, especially when his eyes seemed to glow faintly when Konoha was mentioned and of what they've done to him. You wanna know what they did to me? Hee boy, you have no idea. He shouted at the teen, making him take a step back. Konoha has all but angered me since I was a shinobi. They've lied, cheated and betrayed me and Kushina's clan for a century. He shouted louder this time. The Konoha nin all looked shocked except for Jiraiya since he had a grim look on his face. They have angered me greatly over the years but, to take Kushina away from me was the last straw, he said quietly while grasping his cloak. Which they all caught as did Kushina. When they took her from me 10 years ago, they all but destroyed any hope of salvation and have sealed their fate, with me delivering their punishment. With that Naruto pulled off his cloak and in a shout of, Kai. A massive pressure crashed onto all of Konoha nin except for Kushina and Makoto. As the smoke formed they all saw a giant shadow before them, also pressure of some kind completely lessened to none. They all saw something akin to a handle sticking over his shoulder making them think it was a weapon of some kind. When the smoke finally cleared up though, Kushina's face lit up like a Christmas tree making the sun itself look deadly pale while discreetly Makoto's face had a small pink hue as well, with it growing each passing second. Within Kushina mindscape, she could hear her old friend Kyuubi's screams at seeing Naruto's true form. By Kami. He's a giant Adonis. Kushi-chan, you'd better find a way for me to get out here so I can. The normally composed, now horny as hell Kyuubi was interrupted when Kushina's blushing face shouted mentally. Q-chan. I never knew you liked Naru-kun too. Well, we can have this conversation later, with Kyuubi cut mental connection, but there was already a big mental grin on Kushina's face knowing her best and longest friend had feelings for her, Naruto. She looked upon the newly and to her true delight appearance of Naruto. She knew he had been hiding his true appearance but, she never knew he was hiding this. For in front of her and all of them was a man that by all standards was a giant, for he stood, at least from what they could tell, was 25 feet tall and muscular. Very muscular. If the sight of his muscles were the size of small boulders. His skin was a bit on the pale side, with it a bit darker than it was before but, still the same shade as Kushina's own porcelain skin. His 12-pack was full out, shown out to all, as were his pecs, and you could just tell you could hit him with a sledgehammer and it would shatter upon impact. His face was angular yet chiseled to perfection, carved by the gods themselves. His large arms were practically the size in width of an average-sized human. Though the other changes Kushina noticed were that of his hair, it was now surprisingly enough golden with black highlights within, with the spiky still there only a little more tamed. His hair was long, with it going past his neckline and somewhat over his eyes. Though his golden amber slitted eyes now held a much more powerful look in them, making his appearance all the more intimidating. That's when they saw what he was wearing. Due to his large size, Naruto had to take matters into his own hands, where for his feat he had over the years had to take to learning a few professions like blacksmithing and tailoring. For now he was wearing his own custom-made clothing, starting with his black combat boots with black steel plating over the giant boots. Next up was his black cargo pants with the same metal plating, only this time integrated into the pants, making them much more durable but wouldn't hold back his speed. Next up was his chest, being completely shirtless except for the large tattered golden coat that hung loosely over his shoulders with torn off sleeves at the end. Upon the coat's back was the Uzumaki clan symbol in its full out true glory, with the symbol for protector and guardian interlocking with the Uzumaki symbol. Lastly, on his right shoulder was a crimson-colored pauldron with a design of some kind of demon with curved horns. Its mouth was wide open, showing it was screaming in what seemed fear. That's when they saw the sword handle above the pauldron and wondered what was behind the mont's back. Kushina and Kyuubi saw it as clear as day though, and right now Kushina was having a hard time not drooling over the sight of what she was seeing. Since she had always been a kenjutsu master at heart, with only her fuinjutsu coming out first, the weapon she saw upon Naruto's back was absolutely breathtaking. By the gods above, Naru-kun got that weapon of all things. Kami is truly on his side. Q-chan, do you know what that weapon is? Yes, hell, most of the underworld and heaven know what that weapon is, it's told in legends, but that blade was wielded by a being that fought demons and angels way back. Whoa. What's the sword called? Its name is rarely spoken of since it brings nightmares to many demons and hatred from most of heaven. Its name is Chaos Eater. When the demoness said that, a chill of excitement shot down her spine of seeing the blade of legend upon her container's back. How he got such a weapon in his possession she would never know, but right now it only increased her arousal of Naruto even more. For the giant weapon upon Naruto's back was a giant Zanbato-looking weapon, except in a truly unique design. Its bladed side was curved with two short spiked ends coming out from the double side blade. Its inner design was quite terrifying when you look at it with a careful eye. It was showing the screaming face of what looked like ghostly souls forever screaming in what looked like either torment, anguish, pain, or all of the above. Its length was 20 feet and 5 foot in width. Finishing it off was that the sword itself was glowing faintly yellow. With the smoke finally clearing up, Naruto in his new and completely true appearance stepped to Kushina and kneeled on one knee. He ignored the looks he was getting from the Konoha nin but did savor the incredible fear from Jiraiya and would love it when he start pulverizing the man into the ground. Kushi-chan, his voice much deeper than she remembered. Looking up she saw the smiling face of Naruto, the one she loved with all her heart. It's time we left Konoha, he said with his hand held out which she quickly grasped and with a small eep from her hauled her up till she was standing perfectly on her shaky legs. Kushina looked at Naruto well looked up is the better word for it. She could see she stood at his legs in height and it irritated her a bit on the inside. She felt so small. Naru-kun, what about all of Konoha? I can feel the Konoha shinobi converging here, what do we do? She asked him, only to get a grim smile from him. Let them comes, I said I would protect you and I meant it, I've been away from my duty for the last 10 years and I won't keep doing that. Konoha can try to take you back from me but, I'll destroy any and all that try. I promised I would go through hell and its 9 levels of torture and back 100x times over just to get you and I meant it. He said finishing his sentence with such much emotion it brought a happy tearful smile to her face. Thank you Naruto-kun, she repeated rubbing her eyes of the tears. Naruto nodded with a smile before narrowing his eyes. Die. Jiraiya shouted appearing over Naruto while doing hand seals. Kuchio's no jutsu. And with that a giant shadow appeared over Naruto and Kushina looking up slightly Naruto and Kushina saw the body of the giant toad Gamabunta coming down on them. Its eye filled with confusion at the sudden summoning. With only a second to spare, Naruto spoke, Kushi-chan grab my leg, he said and she did so quickly wondering what Naruto was gonna do. As the giant toad came down Makoto watched being held back by Tsukumo and Sume. Kushina. Makoto yelled as the toad was but an inch away from crushing her and Naruto. Then the impossible happened. Gamabunta's fall was stopped and the toad knew something was wrong. Jiraiya in his desperate and fearful state also found something wrong. That's when they saw Gamabunta's body about 25 feet from the ground. But not going down any further. To summon this little toad, you must be desperate to kill me Jiraiya, but you should I didn't take down a Biju physically for nothing you know, a voice that striked fear into Jiraiya's heart with each passing word. Looking under Gamabunta was Naruto and Kushina grasping his leg looking up also with amazement in her eyes. Why was this? Well it could be that Naruto's right hand was in the air holding Gamabunta's body in the air like it was nothing with a bored look on Naruto's face. It couldn't be that though. Right. Holy Kami. Tsukumo uttered trying to wipe the disbelief in his eyes. He couldn't believe but, right in front of him was a man holding Gamabunta's Biju-sized body in the air. With only one hand. Makoto was struck in amazement as well, she stared at the godly-looking giant with awe. This man, who was very important to Kushina was holding a toad of Gamabunta's size in the air like it was nothing. Her curiosity was getting stronger of him for each passing second. Gamabunta's heavier than I remembered. Anyway, here, I think this is yours. Naruto said and with a swing of his arm sent Gamabunta flying. And I do mean flying. The giant toad was sent right over the Konoha shinobi and into the forest skidding back destroying trees and the ground. That is until it hit the Konoha wall and poofed out of existence. Jiraiya fell to the ground in shock he jumped off Gamabunta at the right time but, now he was standing right before the very man he feared greatly. His eyes glaring down on him making he was suffocating under the monstrous wave of power weighing on him. It honestly felt like an ant compared to a lion. You're pathetic Jiraiya, your fear is all over you, what a disappointment you are, without waiting for a reply from the scared shitless Sennin. Naruto backhanded the man away who of which went slammed into the forest taking many trees with him. This of course shocked many, Jiraiya a Sennin, was just backhanded and beaten so quickly. And this guy made it looks as easy as breathing. Whoa, Naru-kun that was so awesome. She shouted in childlike glee. I mean, it's not every day you see a shinobi like Jiraiya getting manhandled like that. Meh. Jiraiya is pathetic. He may be a good shinobi, but he relies too much on his summons than his own capabilities. Now then, he said, turning his head to the remaining Konoha shinobi. Kushina saw this and looked at Makoto with a calculating stare in her eyes. Searching for something until she spoke. Naru-kun, remember when I said to spare Makoto? Would you mind taking her with you? If there was any person I'd want to take away from this corrupted, arrogant village, it's her, she said, shocking Makoto greatly, while Naruto just looked at Kushina for a minute. But she is of Konoha, can we trust her? He said, only to get a nod from her. Yes, if there is anyone I trusted with all my heart, it Makoto-chan, she said with a smile. Seeing this, Naruto closed his eyes and nodded. Very well then, but the others, he said, making the others tense. Won't get the same treatment. And with that, Naruto's gaze snapped at them, and in a blink of an eye, Tsukumo, along with Tsume, and Jiraiya's students were passed out, similar with how Naruto dispatched the gate guards. Minato himself, being a self-proclaimed shinobi genius and strong-willed being, was lying back foaming at the mouth with his eyes rolled at the back of his head. Again, pathetic. He spoke with distaste. After this he looked at Makoto with a piercing look in his eyes that made the female teen fidget. Kushina, go talk to her. Ask why she's so hesitant with coming, but hurry, I sense many shinobi coming and I would rather like to get out of here soon. He said, getting a nod from her. With that, Kushina ran to Makoto and start talking to her of why was so hesitant with leaving. As she did so, Naruto moved his gaze at Minato and walked over to the unconscious teen. He grabbed him by his neck and lifted him up with a deadly serious look in his eyes. This one, I can tell, has been hurting Kushina for some time now. He deserves punishment as well. With that, Naruto balled up his boulder-sized fist and let go of Minato, only for Naruto to swing his fist and nail the Namikaze in the stomach, sending him through the forest like a speeding missile, shattering trees along the way. That'll show him. Before he looked over shoulder and into the forest, sensing someone watching them. Then multiple chakra signatures appeared within the forest. 300, number 400, and the Sandaime himself. Hee. Perfect, he muttered with a sinister grin came upon his face. Kushina saw this and wondered what meant by that, but the way he was grinning made her feel a little hot. That's the grin of a demon. Sure does. Reminds me of you a bit when the first times we met, but on him. Makes him look feral, handsome, godly, perhaps. More like a demonic Adonis. Naruto, not knowing of the conversation about him, spoke. Kushi-chan, hurry up. We've got company. With that, multiple thuds of feet pounded away at the ground, showing the arrival of many Konoha shinobi, along with Orochimaru and Senju Tsunade, the other two Sennin and their sensei, and the self-proclaimed Kami no Shinobi himself, Hiruzen Sarutobi Sandaime Hokage. That's when they all saw the damage at the grounds, but the source of their appearance was the giant before them. Many went deadly pale at the man. His appearance was fearsome in nature and his eyes didn't help at all. It actually made a few that made contact with his eyes keel over before passing out from the ferocity in his eyes. Hiruzen was staring at the giant man with a look of extreme curiosity. It's not every day you see a man of his height, and plus the way the man's aura just expelled power told him that this man was different. That is until he heard his student Tsunade gasp. So looking at her, he saw how deathly pale she was, while Orochimaru himself, his star student, was showing disbelief with his eyes wide as they could be. It can't be. He's supposed to be dead. He heard Tsunade utter this, made him feel a little tense for some reason. Ah, they've all gathered. Good, I won't have to shunt each of you down then. Naruto said, making them all tense. He started walking toward them with a bloodthirsty look in his eyes which made many shinobi piss themselves in fear. Who are you, stranger? Hiruzen asked, clearly confused at who this man was, but to make his students fearful like they are made him feel a little more tense than before. Naruto just looked at Hiruzen for a moment, making the cage freeze in his tracks. The golden amber slitted eyes made him feel something he has never felt before. A feeling of absolute power washed over him like a tsunami, threatening to deflaten and crush him like he was nothing but trash. Who I am? Boy Hiruzen, you are getting senile in your age. If you were to read the bingo books you would know me, but I was, after all, killed by your students 10 years ago. Do you remember now? he said, satisfaction gleaming in his eyes, seeing Hiruzen go deathly pale at what Naruto just said. No. It can't be. No, it's impossible. He denied it to be true. There was no way, absolutely no way it could be true. Yes, that's right, or let me spell it out for you. My name is Uzumaki D. Naruto, aka the Kami no Saigai to Senso, god of disaster and war, and your worst nightmare. Finishing it off with a demonic shout. Naruto just announced it to everyone. That he was back and ready bring disaster once more. You, no, it's can't nay. Hiruzen said, horrified at what he was hearing. That's right, fool. I'm back and ready to take Kushina-chan away from here the same way you took her from me 10 years ago. With that, Naruto took a step forward. Next thing anyone knew, Naruto was in front of Orochimaru with his fist already embedded into the snake man's stomach. The sound of crunching and shattering ribs rung around the whole area along with Orochimaru's painful scream. Too slow to react, Naruto brought down his other fist upon Orochimaru's jaw, breaking it as well as sending the pale man into the air. As the Sennin was in the air, Naruto drew back his other fist while using his right block Tsunade's chakra-enhanced punch, making a shockwave from behind him. He brought it down and rammed Orochimaru right into the ground, creating a massive crater. Taking their shock into account, Naruto spun around, delivering a bone-breaking kick to Tsunade, breaking her left leg and sending her into a couple of trees. Afterwards, he turns his head toward the oncoming group of Konoha shinobi and glares. Right then, a massive pulse shot from him, with it hitting the group of shinobi, making them pass out from the sudden mental attack. Then, without warning, he sent his right foot into the ground, creating a shockwave before a small upheaval of earth shoot up, hitting many other shinobi that were about to send their own jutsu from afar. Hiruzen watched in just a few minutes, this man no monster take out his students and shinobi like it was second nature. It actually scared him a bit, but he had to show no fear in adversity. Even if his enemy was practically a monster among humans and god among shinobi. Something he truly was questioning about himself at watching such a display. With Kushina and Makoto. Whoa, that guy is strong, said Makoto, wide-eyed at what she just seen. This guy just took down 3 Sennin, a man that is stronger than all of the Sennin combined, and now hundreds of shinobi like it was child's play. Her curiosity of him rose up to monumental heights of him, and her amazement of what he has done so far showed in her eyes. He. Trust me, I was just like that when I saw him fight San back when I was just a kid. Naruto-kun is truly very, very powerful, and I want to be there with him step by step throughout both our lives. Kushina said with a small giggle, seeing her friend's gaping face. Wow, you truly love him, don't you? I still can't believe Konoha placed that kind of seal on you, she said, remembering what Kushina told her and about the seal that locked away her true memories. It disgusted her that Konoha would do something so dirty just so they could get Kushina. Yes, she knew of Kushina's clan, the Uzumakis. She was also recently told about her being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. But to Kushina's surprise, Makoto still saw her as a friend, something made her feel very relieved about. Mikado heard Kushina sigh contentedly as her violet eyes gazed upon the giant of a man she loved. Yeah, I love him as much as he loves me. You know, the first time we ever met was when I was just 2 years old. From that day on, I never left him, always cling to him like he was my own personal teddy bear. But now he truly does look like my big stuffed teddy bear, she said with a childlike grin. Makoto smiled while rolling her eyes. The Kushina was still in there, but a much more calmer than the energy ball she used to know was still there. But if I know Naruto-kun, and if what you told me is true about your clan, he'll take you away from here even if he has to destroy and kill everything in his way. He may not trust you right now since you're from Konoha, but in time, he will, so will you come along with us? She asked, wanting to know what Makoto's answer was. The Uchiha closed her eyes in thought. The words of Kushina sounded so far-fetched, thinking that this man was strong enough to face all of Konoha by himself and would go through armies to do what he wanted to do. At first she was disbelieving it, but after hearing what he proclaimed himself to be and him throwing a summon of Gamabunta's size with just a hand made her quickly believe every word. Very well then, if he can help me, then I'll follow him without a second of hesitation, she stated with a determined look in her coal-black eyes. Kushina's face broke out into a megawatt smile. For some reason she really wanted Makoto to come with her and Naruto, and she just got her wish. Woohoo! She shouted, hugging Makoto tightly. The black-haired teen was trying to console her hyper-excited friend even though she too had a smile on her face knowing she was in good hands. With Naruto and Hiruzen. Naruto heard Kushina's exclamation and softly chuckled. It would seem this Makoto would be coming with them. That's when he turned his gaze on his last obstacle, his truly most hated enemy of all. The man that took Kushina away from him all 10 years ago but also betrayed the Uzumaki clan just like his sensei before him. The thought of just looking at this man any longer made him want to rip out the Mon's spinal cord and snap his neck with it. No. I'm gonna make Hiruzen feel pain, true pain, no use making it quick. Hiruzen suddenly felt a cold chill go down his spine when Naruto looked at him with those predatory-like eyes of his. Sarutobi Hiruzen, you're the last one, your village has more shinobi than this I know but, I'll just kill them as well, nothing will stop from leaving here with Kushina. Not you, not your daimyo, and most certainly not your pathetic excuse of shinobi, he said, angering Hiruzen with each jab at his village. You may be strong, but that doesn't mean I can't take you down. This may be our first meeting but, I highly doubt you have the power those rumors claim you to have, he said, bluffing since he knew every single word that was talked about him was true. But he was trying anything to lower Naruto's guard just a bit. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto spoke, like I give a damn, I don't care what people say about me, I am what I am. Though I am a human that has surpassed all limits of what a mortal has and done the impossible over and over again during the years. Like my victory with the Hachibi for example, that battle was something I wanted to do to get stronger. I did everything I had, I went to the extreme and still do, making Hiruzen confused. Why go so far to get stronger? You're already portrayed as something akin to a god or a deity, why go so far? Was the question he asked. It was always on his mind when he first heard about the man in front of him. The way he fought and gained power. The way he always got stronger than he was before, how he would do the impossible and come out on top of the most outnumbered battles in history. Looking over at Kushina, Naruto spoke, I fight for the reason I live, my purpose you could say is to get stronger and protect the ones important to me, and right now Kushina Uzumaki is my most precious person in the whole damn world. You Sarutobi, made a mistake when you took her from me. Sarutobi, realizing what Naruto meant, mentally smirked. So, Kushina is his weakness. Then would you really risk her life? He said, thinking he had Naruto cornered. Only to never know the mistake he just made. Naruto's eyes glowed murderously as his body started to shimmer strangely as the ground cracked around him and the trees themselves flowing by the sudden winds surrounding Naruto. The sky itself was swirling above him, churning it into a giant black cloud of lightning and wind. You dare threaten her life? Hiruzen, you're truly a fool. With that, a slight twitch from Naruto sent Sarutobi charging right at him, cages foregone for his shinobi armor. Doing a couple of hand seals, Hiruzen stated. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire release. Fire Dragon Flame Missile, a stream of fire shot out of Sarutobi's mouth, shaping into a giant roaring dragon of blazing hot flames. It sped across the field, burning the grass and making the trees themselves combust into flames from the heat, but, as the dragon came toward Naruto, the said Uzumaki just stared into the oncoming dragon's yellow eyes without a shred of fear. One word escaped Naruto's mouth that Hiruzen heard perfectly. Pathetic. With a swipe of his hand, the dragon was split horizontally, showing the bored face of Naruto in his smoking right hand. Hiruzen's eyes went wide in disbelief. That was his most strongest jutsu and was sure it would at least injure him. A feeling of desperation was starting to fill in his stomach, twisting and turning in a knot of the growing fear he was having of this giant before him. A jutsu like that is pathetic. At the age of 9 I was already advancing those kind of techniques into something better and more advanced. The demonic voice of his enemy rung around the area, only increasing his fear even more. Jumping back, Hiruzen made a hand seal. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. With that, a duplicate of him popped beside him. Reaching into their pouches, they slung their arms outward, making multiple shuriken and kunai fly toward Naruto's giant body. Doing hand seals at the same speed, they both shouted. Kage Shuriken no Jutsu, Kage Kunai no Jutsu. Making the shuriken and kunai multiply from 10 each to 100 each, all flying directly toward Naruto, casting a dark shadow over him. As the hail of weaponry was coming at him, he chuckled. Using such tactics, again pathetic. Kushina and Makoto watched as the hail of weaponry fell upon him in horror. Kushina remembers many times that weapons had hard time cutting into Naruto after all his brutal training, but the quantity of weapons being hurled at him could seriously hurt him. Naruto-kun, move out of the way, she yelled. Naruto heard her but just smiled and spoke. Nah, just watch Kushi-chan, I didn't nothing for the last 10 years. With that the sound of shuriken and kunai met. Multiple thuds. They all looked in shock as every single shuriken and kunai that hit Naruto from where it was supposed to stab into him or scratch him just bounced off him, leaving nothing there. No scratch, no stab, no blood, no nothing. It was like Naruto was bathed in a shower only in razor-sharp metal. Hiruzen's feeling despair only grew seeing Naruto not getting damaged at all from the weapons, and his fear only rose when Naruto's eyes came upon him. Knocking out the cage bushin, he did a few more hand seals before slamming his hands on the ground. Try fighting me with this. Kuchio's no jutsu. Anku, Enma. Monkey King. Enma. With that a puff of smoke erupted from Sarutobi's hand, revealing a human-sized monkey with white spiky hair and beard. This made Naruto grin. Finally he could fight Sarutobi at his fullest and then break him at his fullest at the same time. Oh, it's gonna feel so good when all the hope Sarutobi has of winning this little fight is crushed beneath my feet. Enma blinked, his eyes slowly adjusting from the quick summon only to see his summoner in a state he's never seen before. It was fear, but why? Looking at what was in front of his summoner he saw exactly why. Hiruzen, please tell me you didn't just summon me to fight this man, exclaimed the deadly calm summon. He already knew who this man was. Hell, the whole summon realm knew. He who has shaken the very realm itself by beating a Biju of Hachibi's level. That was spread throughout not only the elemental nations but also the summoning realm. Within itself, this unintentionally got respect from many boss summons for Naruto, since it has never been recorded in history that a mortal of all things defeated a Biju with only his physical prowess and taijutsu only. I'm sorry Enma, but I know the only way to fight him is with you by my side. Because if I don't, I'll most likely be killed, he begrudgingly admitted. Enma just grunted. Sarutobi, I don't know if I should just leave right now. This man before us is highly respected not only in your realm but the summon realm as well, since his feats has reached even us. But, with you being my only clan summoner, I'll have to help you, which gained a grim smile from the old cage. Thank you, now let's begin, he said, with Enma jumping above Sarutobi doing his own hand seals before stating. Henge. Kongonyoi. Transformation. Adamantine staff, and in a poof of smoke Enma transformed into a 6-foot-long staff with black being its main color, with both ends being a dark yellow. When it dropped, Hiruzen caught it before twirling it around before setting into a stance, his eyes glaring at the face of the enemy he admittingly wrong but was for the better of Konoha. A weapon. You wish to fight me with a weapon like that? Very well then, I'll give you the honor of fighting with Chaosider, he said, slowly inching his right handle to the giant leathered strapped handle of what Sarutobi notices now a weapon of some kind. With Kushina and Makoto they watched in awe as Naruto kept Hiruzen the Kami no Shinobi in a corner without even moving. The big bright grin on Kushina's face could make even the sun itself turn green with envy. Hell, Makoto was smiling as well as she watched the person that was possibly gonna help her leave her cursed clan beat Konoha's cage around like a rag doll and embarrass him like a child. Ooh, Naru-kun's gonna draw it. I wanna see. Kyuubi shouted repeatedly like a child wanting its favorite toy. Q-chan, you have no idea how cute you just sounded when you said that, he, mentally said a grinning Kushina. Shut up. The flustered Kyuubi said as she really couldn't control herself when Naruto's admitted that he was gonna draw his weapon. It was like an urge for her to just see him use the weapon that made her want him to quickly draw it out and carve up the old man like a pumpkin. When Naruto's hand grasped the leathered handle, a sudden pulse of power reverberated from his back, cracking the ground beneath him and making many trees break upon impact from the sudden pulse. Hiruzen Enma, meet Chaosider, he said, drawing his massive Zanbato demonic weapon from his back. And in that slow ever draw, Hiruzen appeared below Naruto in mid-swing, his staff an inch away from hitting Naruto's stomach. That's when the giant demonic sword blocked the staff, making it tremble chaotically. It was like he slung a sledgehammer at a steel door. Good Kami. Hiruzen, be careful, my head hurts. Enma shouted from within the staff while Sarutobi just nodded. No time to talk, Sarutobi, you're in the middle of a fight. A voice formed behind him, spinning around. He slammed his staff at Naruto only to hit his sword once more, making an echo of clanging steel echo around the area. With that, they both disappeared in the high-speed Kenjutsu battle. Soon metal versus metal rang from all over the forest of Konoha, alerting many shinobi that felt the chakra signatures being all focused in one spot with them getting ready. Trees were broken from the shockwaves of the two enemies meeting with their weapons each time. That is until a scream of pain erupted from the forest before Hiruzen's body shot out of the forest and into the ground, bleeding severely from numerous injuries on his part, his staff still at his side but cracked, showing damaged Enma was as well. Out came Naruto Chaoseater over his shoulder with a deadly look in his eyes, the sudden spark of playfulness gone. He wanted to leave Konoha, and he wanted to leave now. Hiruzen, I've had enough games, we end this now. And with speed Hiruzen couldn't even detect Naruto appeared in front of him, his giant fist smashing into his face, making dislocate jaw and breaking his teeth. With that though, Hiruzen's body shot off toward Konoha, smashing into trees on the way as well as injuring his body even more. With that out of the way for now, Naruto turned toward Kushina and Makoto, the latter looking at him in complete awe and amazement in her eyes. He saw this but brushed it off for now and walked up to them for a moment. Kushi-chan, I know you're strong, don't get me wrong, I know you are, but right now you are at your weakest, so I want you to apply this to your seal holding Kyuubi. It's the great Fuinjutsu I've created so far and my greatest work. It will protect you and Miss Makoto here as well, he said, handing over a small paper with an intricate yet complex design of a seal similar to the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu upon Kushina's navel. Looking at it with a calculating eye, she was talented and praised for by her father and clan. She analyzed it being some kind of reversal seal of some kind. It being the same array seal upon her stomach holding Kyuubi, but much opposite in design with a few array lines integrated differently than the others. Naru-kun, what does this seal do? I have no idea, she said, pouting cutely since she prided herself greatly on her Fuinjutsu, but this one just seemed so complicated. Chuckling a bit, Naruto turned toward Konoha's direction and spoke. Just apply that to your seal and you'll know soon enough. Enjoy, he said with a big grin on his face. One he has never done for the last 10 years. With that, Naruto charged forward through the forest, shattering trees that came into contact with his body. He knew he was gonna be charging right into the hornet's nest, but he didn't care. He wasn't doing this for only Kushina but also his clansmen, the ones that were betrayed that night. He's gonna make Konoha feel true pain. Kushina blinked before pouting. Damn it, Naru-kun is so confusing sometimes, she shouted while Makoto just giggled at how childish her friend was being. Well, aren't you gonna use it? She said, making the redhead stop before rubbing her head sheepishly. Right, sorry, my bad, kinda forgot, he. With that, she channeled chakra to the seal before placing it on her own seal holding Kyuubi. Within her mindscape, Kyuubi saw the seal Naruto gave her and was still trying to figure out what the seal's job was. It was so much more confusing than any Fuinjutsu she's ever seen before, much more than her first Kantainer's work. Uzumaki Mito's and her skills in Fuinjutsu were godly at least. What does this seal do, I wonder? That's when Kushina applied it onto her seal before a bright light erupted from the outside world, while on the inside Kyuubi felt a sudden tug. When she looked at the mindscape, she saw it was normal but was gradually disappearing. When she snapped her gaze at the Uzumaki seal, she was flabbergasted at seeing instead of being the normal lock and key type of seal, it was now doing the opposite and was slowly opening the giant gates within Kushina's mind. Realization came to Kyuubi's eyes and she smirked. Oh, Naru-kun, you're good. Outside. When the sudden bright light erupted from Kushina, Makoto had to close her eyes unless she wanted damage to her eyes. The light covered a good portion of the forest. It suddenly started to dim, and when it was completely gone, Makoto opened her eyes to see something quite shocking. Before her was a woman that by all rights could pass as a goddess and also the twin sister of Kushina. That's when she noticed the differences with the woman. She noticed the feral whisker marks on her face, her crimson fox-slitted eyes, which in some case was scary but nowhere near as fearful as the ones Naruto had. That's when she saw the two key appendages that made her know who it was, for it was 2 fluffy orange fox ears and 9 flowing orange fox tails on her backside that showed who she truly was. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was out, and right now she looked nothing like the legends proclaimed her to be. For she was right in front of Makoto holding Kushina in a gentle hug with her 9 tails wrapped around her in a protective manner. She saw that Kushina was just as shocked as she was. They thought many things would happen when she applied the seal, but nothing like this. KKQ-chan. Kushina uttered, her wide violet eyes stared shocked at her friend she's known as long as Naruto. The nay she never thought in her wildest dreams would be out here physically with her and never able to leave the seal on her stomach, which was shockingly enough gone. Hello Kushina-chan, and my name isn't technically Kyubi, that's just a title, it's actually Akemi. Kitsune no Akemi he. The newly revealed Akemi chuckled with a sheepish look on her face. Kushina just blinked. Once, twice, 3 times. Oh, I so owe Naruto-kun for doing this, by the way Akemi-chan. She said, still getting used to the name. Looking her way, Akemi asked. That's hen. A mischievous grin crawled up Kushina's face. Mind telling me about that little outburst from before when Naruto showed his true self? Or the fact you've been calling him kun in such a suggestive manner? She said with a teasing manner at the end of her tone. Akemi just blushed, knowing she was trapped, and this time she couldn't cut the conversation via mental link. Damn it. Well. With Naruto, the giant Uzumaki was just a few feet away from Konoha. Even now he could sense its many shinobi all converging on the spot where Sarutobi supposedly landed. He idly wondered if the cage survived the attack, since he did put some good force into that punch. Shrugging his shoulder, Naruto looked over his shoulder to see a bright light where Kushina and Makoto was. That's when a small smile came upon his face. Hope you like my gift to you Kushina as well as you Kyubi. You deserve to be free from such imprisonment after everything you've done for both of us. With that, Naruto jumped once more before landing on a branch overlooking Konoha. Looking over the city, one might think it was peaceful, but Naruto knew better. It was in a state of chaos, the disorder and disaster of seeing their cage, their leader, sent through many buildings and into the streets bloody and broken. He could see where Sarutobi went via the buildings he crashed through, going through a straight line and into the civilian streets. Perfect. He grinned, seeing many shinobi and civilian alike all at that one spot. With that, he disappeared, leaving nothing but a gust of wind in his wake. Naruto was about to put his title to test and leave Konoha in a state of disaster and an open war with Konoha's shinobi. Streets of Konoha. Civilian and shinobi alike were all shocked or plain out terrified at what they were seeing. There was a massive crowd of the two surrounding the body of their Hokage, the fearsome leader that fought in all 3 wars, the man that was named the Kami no Shinobi. Was nothing but a bloody yet broken man, bloody leaking from his body, his jaw totally shattered but, miraculously still there and healable. His staff was beside him, grasped in his hand. They all could see the man was trying to get up only to fall back down to his knee. The shinobi all wondered though what was going on and what did this to their Hokage. Well, they got their answer when Hiruzen's eyes widened in complete fear. Then a second later, Naruto's giant form appeared in front of Hiruzen's body, scaring the hell out of them all. His gigantic towering muscled form made many pale in fear. His giant demonic Zanbato only added to his fearful image. Hiruzen, how pathetic you look, and in front of all these people, what a shame. Naruto said, ignoring the rageful looks from the Konoha shinobi. Or surprisingly enough, lustful looks from a few women in the massive crowd. Hacking up blood, Hiruzen looked upon the man that he had done this to him. Taking a quick glance at his staff, he spoke. Naruto, to have actually come here, within Konoha, I don't know whether or not you're brave or stupid, he said, knowing when he said the name Naruto, the shinobi quickly tensed, knowing the very name made his shinobi either ready for a fight or the weaker-willed ones quit the shinobi life forever. What does that matter? I don't care what I have to go through. I do have Kushina back, but this isn't just for her, this is for your and your sensei's betrayal to the Uzumaki clan. I'm here to rid that symbol upon your shinobi's backs. They don't deserve to wear it since they have betrayed us from the very beginning. He said, shocking them all, just not Hiruzen, who had a grim look in his eyes. But it was for the better of Konoha. He shouted in protest. Wrong thing to say. What did you just say? Naruto said with a dangerous look in his eyes. Hiruzen tensed as Naruto took a step forward. When his foot touched the ground though, Hiruzen suddenly jumped back, ignoring his injuries, and slammed his staff into the ground. Everything me and the past Hokages have done was for Konoha's protection. Even if we sacrificed many, it still brought peace to us, and when Naruto's eyes couldn't get any more dangerous, they just did. You've signed your death warrant. Sarutobi. No, it is your death that happens today, and I will make sure that I succeed where my students failed. Out of the staff came two monkey hands along with the head of Enma, who shouted, I am sorry Naruto Dono, but this is my summoner's will. Ninpo. Kongo Roheki. Adamantine prison wall, with that multiple clones of the staff closed in around Naruto, encasing him inside a prison-like wall. Naruto himself looked pretty bored though with the whole thing. Hiruzen grinned, knowing he had Naruto trapped. Nothing could break that prison, not even his student Tsunade, and her most strongest attacks couldn't leave even a crack. Enma though did look ashamed that he had to imprison the most highly respected person in the whole summon realm. Dragging himself to the prison wall, Hiruzen spoke while leaning against his staff for support. You're done, Naruto. That prison you're in is completely unbreakable. You've lost, he said, thinking he won and had officially beaten the terror of Kumo Iwa and Konoha. He, who had bested the most nightmarishly strong being in all of the elemental nations. How wrong he was at the moment. I will admit, this is quite the prison. No normal human could break this, no matter how strong they are, he mused out loud. So you're admitting your defeat then? Hiruzen asked, perplexed at how Naruto was acting. No. I said no. Normal human could break this. You see, you've forgotten you little detail, Sarutobi, he said, making Hiruzen tense. What do you mean? Wanting to know why the man was so calm with the situation he was in. Naruto just held up his right hand, balling it up into a fist while speaking. Hiruzen, I was able to beat a Biju single-handedly, and not just any Biju, the eight-tailed Hachibi itself. Remember how I did exactly? He said, humor coming out of his voice. Hiruzen's eyes widened greatly, remembering exactly how he did such a feat. That's right. I did it with my strength alone, he said, and before anyone could react, Naruto's fist nailed right into the prison wall, making it creak in protest before giving in and breaking apart. Naruto then stepped out of the self-made hole and spoke. Now, I believe I needed to finish you, he said, walking toward Hiruzen, who at the moment was on the ground unable to get up due to his injuries, and that after that one hit Enma was poofed out due to the pain transferring to the summon. Without the staff as support, he was nothing more than a man getting on in age. Looking upon Naruto's form, his eyes glaring down at him made him truly see what kind of being he angered. He saw it completely. It was a being that swatted armies and fought Biju. He sees the rumors and legends of the man in front of him all true now. Now, die, he said, about to draw his sword and stab the man through. Stop right there, was the shout of one Konoha shinobi. Not gonna let this go on. Yeah, you think we're just gonna let you kill our Kage? If you haven't noticed, Mr. Legend, but you're surrounded on all sides. One arrogant-looking shinobi shouted. Naruto quirked an eyebrow and looked all around him to see all the civilians gone, probably taken to the Hokage monument for safety. He could only see a practically sea of Konoha shinobi all around him. Then the possibilities came and he grinned. Oh, so you wanna stop me? Then by all means, come and try. And with a massive pulse from him, 3/4 tis of that massive force was now passed out in the same manner as the ones before them that was hit by the pulse. The shinobi that shouted at him looked horrified now. What was that? Stuttered a shinobi. Hiruzen, I think it's time you learned not to anger those that have power to kill you. Let me show you what true pain is, to see the things you love the most destroyed by your very eyes. Watch as your home is destroyed, just like I watched my and Kushina home destroyed on that night when you didn't come help us. Naruto shouted, and Hiruzen's eyes completely bugged, knowing what the man was about to do. No, he shouted only to fall on deaf ears, and Naruto brought his left fist up, showing a blue sphere circled around it, encasing his fist completely. Watch, Hiruzen, with just this fist alone. I will level Konohagakure to the ground. And with that, Naruto brought his fist down, slamming into the ground. Soon enough, Konoha started to shake uncontrollably. Buildings all around started to crumble or sink. The land itself shifting, destroying the Konoha walls itself, as well as the Hokage tower itself, cracking and breaking apart from the sudden shift in the earth from which it stood upon. With a sudden snap, Naruto brought his fist up again, only this time to swung it around in the direction at the gobsmacked shinobi. He punched the air creating a shockwave blasting them all away and shattering the buildings in its path. Explosions racked Konoha all around, burning it as the sky itself turned black from the smoke and ash rising into the air. Hiruzen watched all of this as this one man did all of this with just his fist alone. He truly saw what he had angered. Everything that had led up to this moment, all of his careful planning has left his village in total chaos. Just like the Uzumaki clan was left at the hands of Iwa, Kumo and Suna. With Kushina, Akemi and Makoto. As soon as Naruto started destroying Konoha, all three of them were feeling the tremors and shockwaves coming from there. They were greatly curious, so Akemi had taken Kushina and Makoto and gotten close enough to see what was going on. So when they did exactly see what was happening, they were completely awed at the spectacle. Konoha was in total disaster. It was like Mother Nature was scorned and sent her anger toward Konoha tenfold. Kami, now I definitely want to go with you, Kushina-chan. Makoto said, eyeing the whole village she once served burn and fall apart. Why is that? She asked. Cause I know with the way this Naruto is, the adventures he would go on would be great, and living a life of peace is a bit dull for me, that is if you'll let me. She asked only for Akemi to speak. I don't think Naru-kun would have a problem, but he will still keep an eye on you for a while. You'll just have to gain his trust along the way, making Makoto nod. No problem with that, she said, looking over the utterly destroyed Konoha. The destruction of this village. Thank you, Kami, for giving us not only a giant Adonis but one that has the same hatred for Konoha as I and Kushi-chan. Akemi spoke, her hand held together in a prayer. Kushina just shook her head at the display while remembering the talk she had with Akemi, and she wasn't all that shocked to hear what Akemi told her. It would seem over the years she knew Naruto, Akemi had also developed feelings for him which evolved into love. And now 10 years later she still had those feelings just as she did, going on strong. Strangely enough though, she didn't have a problem with sharing Naruto if it came down to it, only that it was between her and Akemi, but there was still the fact of Makoto, and she does remember her eye his form when she thought no one was looking. I think it's time we got down there and explain our next move with the Uchiha clan, if what you said was true, Makoto-chan. Naruto won't leave without paying them a visit as well. Kushina said, making Makoto frown. I don't care what happens to them, all of them are corrupt in their arrogance. Fugaku's ideals have changed the once proud clan I loved as a child into a shadow of its former self. I would actually like to see Naruto destroy them, she said darkly with anger in her eyes. Kushina and Akemi both nodded, knowing of why she hated her own clan so much. They were both told of why, and it made even Akemi sick to her stomach. The Uchiha clan elders, along with the majority of the clan itself, had become so arrogant their beliefs had turned into believing they were strong than Kami herself. Thinking they were pure royalty and should be treated as such, Makoto had been the only one to shout back, only to have the entire clan on her back. Fugaku had went to the council and made the decision of making her a slave that answered his every whim. Kushina had at that point released her anger by punching a tree, making it shockingly shatter to pieces. Placing a hand on her shoulder, Kushina spoke, don't worry, like I said, if there's one thing Naruto hates or than anything, it's what your clan is in treating women the way Fugaku sees them as. They'll get theirs soon, I promise, which Makoto just smiled gratefully while hugging her back as a tear fell from her eye. It's time, let's go, Akemi stated, and with that Kushina grabbed Makoto and latched onto Akemi's body, then in a blink of an eye they disappeared. With Naruto watching in satisfaction at his work, Naruto turned toward the deathly silent Sarutobi, who was looking at his village. I would have just kept doing this and level the monument Hiruzen, but I will be a true monster, for there is children up there that can change Konoha. I'm giving Konoha another chance, for the next generation can actually change Konoha for the better. Remember what happened this day, Hiruzen, for if you do and still keep up with the deceits and lies, I will come back, and next time I will not leave anyone alive, all will be slaughtered, understand me? Demonically at the end was his tone that reverberated around the destroyed area that is the burning Konoha village. Hiruzen just turned his head to look at Naruto. He had heard every single word he spoke, and in the deepest reaches of his soul he was grateful. Grateful that the man before him was giving them one more chance. But seeing the giant man with the fires and destruction of his village looming over him showing his deed, the golden amber slitted eyes from which glowed made him actually see an apparition over Naruto. It looked so demonic in appearance it made him grip his heart and soul tightly as he could lest he has them ripped from his body by just seeing this apparition. His fear for the man before him was so high, he was seeing things. Right. You understand. With that Hiruzen passed out from everything that's happened and to his injuries. Nodding with this, Naruto turned away and waited. They should be here any moment now. And in a second later Akemi appeared with Kushina and Makoto in her arms. Seeing the sudden appearance Naruto looked at them until his gaze landed on Akemi. Hello Kyuubi, nice to see you, he said, not really caring about the destruction around him. Akemi was in the same manner as well. Hell, she savored in the chaos and death around her. Made her feel so at peace. Hey, she was a demon that loved chaos. To you as well Naruto-kun, but my name is Kyuubi, that's just a title, it's actually Akemi, she said while Naruto just quirked an eyebrow before nodding. Akemi, huh? Nice name. Anyway Kushina, did you find out why she was so hesitant to come with us? He said, pointing at Makoto. Kushina just nodded and explained. Well, it all started with her clan. I see. So your clan has been like this for years now, have been corrupted beyond any kind of help and are in the belief thinking they are the stronger than Kami herself. Not to mention you've been marked as their slave and were to be used as a breeding stock for being the strongest female out of the whole clan itself. Naruto spoke, summarizing everything he had been told. It only had been an hour since Konoha was leveled and now the party of 4 were on the trail to the Uchiha clan compound. He had been told of everything the Uchiha had been plotting, most of which he didn't care about, but the part of marking Makoto as a slave and was to be used as a breeding stock just irked him to no end. True, he didn't know Makoto well and was suspicious of her, very much so. But if there was one thing he hated above all else, it was women used as objects and personal toys. He'd seen enough of that doing missions for the clan and his personal travels. Bandits' camps, villages filled with poverty, and public brothels. All of which he'd seen to his disgust the women used in such ways. Those places were wiped off the map the same day. He'd freed any and all women from their treatment as well as killing those that put them into such a thing. Yeah, what's worse is that the elders of the clan that live by the old ways have been planning to use a seal on me since I'm the only one that's fought against these rights. The seal would make me nothing more than a mindless drone that would follow their bidding without a single second of hesitation, just thinking about them putting that on me. Makoto spoke before she started to tremble from a mixture of disgust and fear. Kushina, seeing this, wrapped her friend in a hug which the teen welcomed, crying into her shoulder. Kushina pat her back gently while looking toward Naruto with a pleading look in her eyes that was something he couldn't fight. He'd wiped villages off the map, destroyed armies, fought and beaten Biju. But Kushina's pleading violet eyes was the one thing he just couldn't beat. Akemi saw her former container looking at Naruto with a pleading look and saw how much Naruto was losing under her gaze. It was quite amusing, really, to see someone of such power and control be beaten by just a gaze. Sighing, he spoke, very well, I will deal with the clan, but after which we must leave, alright. He didn't like helping a former Konoha nin, but if Kushina trusted her enough then he'd do it. Besides, he has been itching to give those Uchiha and kicking anyway. He missed the victory sign Kushina gave both Akemi or Makoto but did hear the slightly giggling of the 3. Quirking an eyebrow, he turned only to see them all blinking innocently at him. Shaking his head, he turned back around, not seeing the big grin on Kushina's face, the vulpine one on Akemi's, or the small smile on Makoto's. As they ran through the forests heading for the Uchiha compound, Akemi looked upon Naruto's giant form and gained a curious look in her eyes. Anyo, Naruto-kun. The man just gave her a glance. Yes, Akemi. The Biju just sped up beside him and spoke. I don't get something. It's been 10 years and I remember you being very tall even at your age, but how did you become this tall? Or the matter of how you're still able to move at such speeds like you are. This got both Kushina and Makoto's attention as well, since it didn't cross their minds till Akemi mentioned it. Naruto sighed. Honestly, I don't know, but I think it's from my father's side of the family. Everything I am right now makes me feel like it was from my father's side, and I'm guessing he was a giant or some kind of half-breed to a giant. All I know is that this is my full height and has been like this for the last 2 or 3 years. I hid in a henge so I wouldn't be alerted to nearby villages like Konoha. Akemi nodded with this until she continued. I see, she said, still curious of why he, a human, was this tall. She'd seen giants before, some ranging from 50 feet tall to shockingly enough 500 feet tall. I'm just glad I have a way to shift this form into a more normal one. This made Kushina blink before looking at him with a curious gaze. Shift. What do you mean? He stopped before looking at Kushina. He reached out with his senses and didn't sense anyone nearby, so he spoke. Well, I have two forms basically. One is the form you see before you, which I just use when I go into battle, but for public areas I use my normal form. I can shift in between these forms at will, but it's such an annoyance. She just nodded at this. Now, let's go. With that they sped toward to the Uchiha clan, knowing tonight would be one to be remembered for years to come. Uchiha compound main gate. Arriving at the gate while dispatching the guards are snapping their necks in Naruto's case. The group arrived upon the Uchiha crested gates, Makoto standing between Kushina and Akemi. Her eyes were practically glaring at the gates in clear disgust and hatred. Naruto took a step forward at the gate and placed his hand upon it. Now, I'm gonna come out with it and say, I won't be showing a single shred of mercy. Whether they be woman, man or child, none shall survive this night. This is my warning to you, Uchiha Makoto. Tonight will be the last time you ever see the clan again. Makoto closed her eyes before letting out a sigh. I know, and I don't care. This clan, this practical hell needs to be destroyed, wiped off the face of world. Tonight, the clan needs to die, all of them. Naruto, looking into her eyes and saw not a shred of hesitation, he nodded. Very well then. Bear witness. 2. He bares his fist before swinging it upon the gate. It creaked upon protest of his massive titan-like strength before it shot off like a rocket, crushing houses and the logged walls. His fist outstretched while his eyes glared from the shadows of his bangs. The end of this pathetic excuse of a clan. His voice so cold yet demonic it made Kushina, Makoto and Akemi herself have a shiver travel down their spines. The attack got the attention of the clan when many started to run out of their houses only to see Naruto's hulking form at the gate with one of their own Uchiha there beside him. Soon enough their confused faces changed to enraged ones. Who are you, intruder? And why have you come? Shouted one Uchiha. Naruto ignored the man as he took a step forward, his feet making the area shake with each step he took. Many were a bit shaken by the look in the man's eyes and his sheer size. Walking up to the first Uchiha in his sights, he brought up his hand and spoke with a tone that just sent a shiver down all of the Uchihas in the area. What I'm doing here is of no concern for you, fool, only that I am cleansing the world of your filth, dye, trash, and with but a swipe of his hand. The Uchiha was batted away most assuredly, his entire broken by the massive boulder-sized hands and right through 4 houses and the wall itself. Then without warning, he charged at another group. Being unable to defend themselves in time, he brought down his other hand and engulfed into the blue sphere. Once it hit the ground, the Uchiha didn't even have time to scream. A shift in the earth was their only warning before a slab of earth rose up from behind them and utterly shadowed their forms. Looking up, their eyes widened before it fell. Squelch. The sound of bodies being crushed sounded the area, the immense pressure silencing the now dead Uchiha. The flesh pounded into the deep dirt, the bones shattered and crushed into dust, and the blood imploding from their bodies from the pressure like a balloon seeping from the ground itself, mixing and churning it into a reddish-brown color. Ignoring this, he stepped right onto the slab, earning another wet fleshy squelch. Akemi smirked at this as the blood just seeped more out of the ground and onto Naruto's boot. Yet he showed not a slight of hesitation or disgust for what he did. Even Kushina was used to his brutal ways, if albeit were now a bit more ruthless, but was used to such, remembering the times in her earlier memories. Makoto, though, didn't have such luxuries. She was frozen on the spot for a few seconds to readjust to what she just saw. Yes, she had killed before, earned her rights as a shinobi, but what she just saw made everything she's seen in the war look normal, if that's the right word. She shook herself out of her stupor and continued on. She knew things like this were gonna happen and she didn't have time to slow down and become hesitant. She had the chance to gain a new life. Even if it meant sacrificing her blood and clan for such a thing, she would do it. Besides, they deserved it, for the curse of the clan would have assuredly followed a generation in the future. It would be easier to just wipe it off the face of the planet before it could do any more harm. She soon followed after them, never knowing Naruto's eyes were on her the whole time. This was more than just a purge to the clan, it was also a test a test of loyalty of sorts, something he needed to do and see if Makoto was truly serious about coming with them. Despite his actions, he needs to know she was truthful in her words. Her actions though said it, though albeit she was hesitant, she was determined to go forward, down the path of a traitor, but on the paved road to a new life filled with mysterious adventures, with many twists and turns, filled with blood, death. Hey, you've gained some, but not all, of my trust, Makoto, but you have done well. Walking forward, he gained a very cold smirk that made Akemi herself shiver and would make Lucifer himself flinch. This night would be one to be remembered. Too bad the only witnesses besides themselves would be dead, and the deities themselves would only be able to watch the unfolding of such a slaughter. Let the purge begin. His voice carrying out through the whole clan compound like a sonic boom. And then the slaughter began. 3 hours later, clan home compound. It had only been 3 hours since their arrival, and in just that short amount of time, the three girls witnessed why exactly Naruto was famed for his actions in the war. In just that small amount of 3 hours, Naruto himself, without a shred of help from any of them, massacred and murdered any and all Uchiha in his path. Buildings fell beneath his feet, women and children were swiftly killed just by his massive killing intent itself, making their hearts implode from the pressure. The men were all just butchered, limbs were torn off, bones were shattered to dust by his massive feet and fists. His giant Zanbato untouched throughout it all. They all swept through the compound like a raging tornado, with Naruto himself being the center of it all, sweeping it up like anything and everything in his path was but a speck of nothingness to him. Frankly, since the man could pick up a building with his hand alone and without the least sign of stress and throws it into a group of Uchihas before igniting a time-delaying explosive tag. Before them though was the head's home, the very place where the leader, clan head, and its heir lived. But they weren't alone. Oh no, they weren't alone. Before them was a literal army of Uchiha that all regrouped to their clan head's home, hoping, no, praying they combined with their almighty clan head they can defeat this monster in human skin. They were all that remained of what was left the once well-known Uchiha clan, reduced to nothing but a handful of what used to be a small village's worth. Many were injured in just the crossfire of Naruto's slight small war with the clan itself, some worse than others. But all still had one thing they all had, and that was the immense fear that was adamantly clear in all their eyes at Naruto's giant form looming over them, a mere apparition behind his back showing that of a being behind him. Its glowing yellow eyes showed many things, but the one most clear was that of bloodlust. Demon, he's a monster, a devil, muttered one terrified Uchiha, his form all but shaking like a leaf. Naruto seemed to hear the man and gave him a piercing stare that right then and there sent the man into complete hysterics. It was like his mind and soul was bashed repeatedly by multiple sledgehammers. Soon enough his eyes rolled to the back of his head as foam erupted from his mouth. Falling back, he landed at the feet of another Uchiha, this one shaking at what just happened to his fellow clansman. Taking a step forward, making sure the three behind him were safely secure, he spoke, "Now stop wasting my time, bring out your pathetic excuse of a coward clan head, or so help Kami-sama herself I will beat and tear it out of each and every one of you." His voice booming like a silent shockwave. His voice making the surrounding buildings creak in protest by the small but silent shockwave. "There is no need, boy," was the voice of an old yet seasoned man. Looking up at the doors, he could see a man well dressed like a warrior and stood like one as well. Dressed in a normal shinobi attire except for a katana held within his hand. The man had a tan tone with pure black eyes that were filled with hatred yet firmness of that of a leader. His hair was spiky black with most of it going past his neckline. Two bangs framed his face as a scar on his chin in the shape of an X. Behind this man was none other than Uchiha Fugaku. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the man. He knew this man despite not knowing his true name. He knew his alias from the bingo book, and truthfully he couldn't believe it, and also couldn't help but smirk. Well, I'll be damned, I never thought you of all people were this wretched clan's head. It's been a while, hasn't, since we last saw each other, and since our last fight, isn't that right? Hanu Mikado. No Abata, Flame Emperor. Avatar of Fire, the man's eyes only narrowed much more as those that heard the name gasped utterly in pure shock. Kushina blinked confusingly, as did Akemi, while Makoto herself was in a state of pure shock. It has been a long time since I was called that name, but I am sorry, I have given up that title long ago. My time as that person has ended, and now I'm just a man that leads his clan, though I can't say it is a pleasure seeing you again. Naruto's smirk just grew wider. Ah yes, last time we fought it was during the end of the Second War, it is also where you got that scar, am I right? The man just twitched while faintly touching the X scar on his chin before sighing. Looking back at the man he hated above all, I no longer go by the name, for my true name is Ozai. Uchiha Ozai, and I am the clan head of the Uchiha clan. You, sir, have attacked it for reasons unknown, and I shall fulfill my role as the leader of this clan, and eliminate you, like I failed to do all those years ago. Naruto just closed his eyes and shook his head before clenching his fists together. The wind suddenly picked up with high speeds, with it swirling just around Naruto and Ozai, leaving just enough room for their fight. Looking over his shoulder, he looked at the three ladies behind him and spoke, Kushi-chan, Akemi. Makoto, while I take this man, you go and take care of the stragglers, they shouldn't even be a problem. They nodded before leaving, only for Naruto to shout. Makoto. Said woman stopped and looked back, only to see the deadly look in Naruto's golden slitted eyes. This is your chance to prove yourself. Do not hesitate, slay any and all that get in your way. Prove to me you are willing to do everything to abandon this life of which you bear, and you will gain the freedom you so desire. If not, you will die, along with your clansmen. Be damned what Kushi-chan says. I will kill you. Understood. She just stood there for a minute before nodding with a determined look in her eyes. Seeing this, he sent her off. Before he turned his attention back at Ozai, seeing his impatient scowl, he smirked before grasping Chayasiter in his grasp. Ozai, seeing this, grasped the handle of his katana while eyeing the man in front of him warily. He was very curious as to why Makoto was betraying the clan and her reasons, but right now he had to completely focus on this fight, or otherwise he is going to die this time. Now Ozai, come, it's time we finished our last fight. I know you're stronger than that old brittle fool Hiruzen, so I wanna enjoy this fight a bit, now come. His baritone voice cracking the ground itself. Ozai sighed before slowly pulling out his katana as a red hue outlined his body. Closing his eyes, he circulated his chakra through his system, channeling it and morphing it into the right direction. All for this fight. Snapping his eyes open, Ozai's body erupted in flames, it being that of not orange flames or yellow, but pure red crimson, the flames of hell itself. Tightening his grip on his katana, he willed the flames to engulf his blade as well. After it did so, he looked back up at Naruto to see him now adorning a serious, firm stone face. The giant, pulled out Chayasiter, the giant blade dwarfing his katana as size and length. But that is irrelevant. What matters is the skill to wield a blade. You don't have that, you're nothing but a child with a stick. Yet he knew this man before him was a master with a blade, for he knew it to be true. Good, you're ready. Now, let's begin. His shout signaling the start of their final and last duel. With a jump they disappeared before appearing inches from each other, and with a mighty swing their blades. Boom. Fire and dust erupted into a giant swirling ball as their blades met. Flames flickered all on the ground as the ground itself shook and cracked under their mighty clash. The major shockwave from their blades meeting shattered all buildings near them and in a 1-mile radius. The swirling vortex around them seemed to rise and grow in length and width as the sky itself turned black from the first clash. It was like the start of a fight between two titans. Brandishing his blade, Ozai switched it with his left hand before doing a few hand signs, them being nothing but a blur, but to Naruto he was all too familiar to the speed. Take this. Kaden. Dai-Enden fire release. Big flame bullet, a literal meteor of fire shot from his mouth in a stream at Naruto. Seeing this, he shifted his blade before swinging it upward while kicking the man's blade away. Spinning in the air, He gathered chakra into Chaositor before swing it diagonally at the incoming ball of flame and shouted, Sorakato, Soul Cut, an arc of purple and yellow energy shot off Chaositor and clashed with the fire ball. Before it went through the blazing ball and towards the shocked Ozai. The ball itself slowly sliding from each other before imploding into nothing but spark and flame. Reacting quickly, Ozai rolled out of the way and watched in slight amazement and a little hint of fear that the attack all but cut right through the ground like a hot knife through butter and cleaved through multiple buildings and clansmen that were in the way of the attack. By Kami, what an attack! Don't get distracted. A voice boomed over him. Looking up he saw Naruto bring down his fist with his sword coming from his left. Moving purely on instinct, he rolled out of the way of the punch with the fist slammed into the ground shaking the area before he got into a handstand and sprang up avoiding the swing. Planting his foot on Naruto's right hand that wielding Chaositor Ozai grinned before doing a pinwheel kick kicking Naruto in the face multiple times before flipping into the air. Spinning his blade in his hands as he watched Naruto get slightly disorientated by the sudden attack, he channeled his chakra through the spinning blade making his burst into flame before he grasped the handle and sliced horizontally at Naruto. Barizusuka, Blaze Scar, and with that 3 flaming arcs shot out of his blade in a giant sweeping motion toward Naruto. Noticing it at the last minute, he spun Chaositor in his hand increasing its velocity making it into a proverbial shield. It did its job by blocking the flames, that is before Naruto sensed something looking up he saw Ozai in the air bringing down his blazed engulfed sword. Barizubaraju, Blaze Barrage, that's when he in a blur started to swing his weapon multiple times in the air releasing countless upon countless fire arcs rapidly at Naruto. Letting out a small curse, he channeled energy into his fist making it be engulfed by a blue sphere that which Ozai narrowed his eye at. Swinging his fist upward he let out a punch that which left blue cracks in the air itself soon enough those many arcs rapidly started to disperse right before they hit him inches away from his body. It was like they were hitting an invisible wall of steel. Once it was over, Naruto reacted and slammed his sword into the ground before rapidly doing hand signs that with speeds Ozai couldn't catch. Eat this. Raiden. Gion lightning release. False darkness before he opened his mouth as a spear of lightning shot out at speeds Ozai couldn't comprehend. Noticing he was still in the air, he did the only thing he could do. He spun adding Kaden chakra to his body engulfing it into a sphere of fire before he condensed into smaller and smaller before he outstretched his katana outwards. It did what any other lightning rod does, the Raiden jutsu reacted and shot at the katana, before it started to travel up Ozai's arm. Naruto's eye narrowed when he saw this knowing this was many of Ozai's talents. Within the sphere, Ozai grit his teeth before using his affinity to lightning and channeled the lighting from his sword to his body and out his other arm which shot out like a beam. He smiled seeing it work. Hey still got it. Once Naruto saw the light blue spot coming from the sphere he chuckled. Old fool still has it. The beam of lightning shot out towards Naruto who raised his Zanbato letting it slam right into it. Reacting quickly he twirled his blade in the air before stabbing it into the ground letting the lightning disperse within. Then suddenly he whipped out his other hand and let it smack right into the stomach of one Ozai, making the man gasp from the sudden loss of oxygen and pain. Before he too was sent flying into a building. Not letting up he grabbed his sword pulled it out of the ground and channeled his energy into his before swinging it at speeds none could match he shouted, Sora Shredder, Soul Shredder, that's when similar to Ozai's attack only much fiercer and stronger did multiple upon countless arcs of purple-yellow streaked arcs shoot out of his swings. Each hit made the building be covered in more smoke as painful grunts could be heard from within. Thinking enough was enough, he stopped in stride and waited. When the smoke cleared up, there on the rumble of wood and metal was Ozai, sitting upon a pile of wood breathing deeply, with multiple gashes and slices upon his body. Blood dripped from his body and stained his clothing red. His hand resting on his katana which was stabbed into the ground as his eyes glared into his own golden slitted ones. Glaring back, get up this has only started fool, and don't hold back. He said as a yellow hue of energy erupted from him as Ozai just sighed before closing his eyes. Only to snap them open to reveal the fully mature Sharingan the 3 commas spinning rapidly as a scowl etched into his face. Standing up with a small limp, he grasped his katana and forced all of his chakra throughout his body once more making his body explode into flames once more. Letting the flames go through him, he sighed while relishing in the feeling of the flames covering his body. That is before he glared through his Sharingan eyes at the firm stone form of Naruto. Now, let's finish this, he said before igniting his sword once more, while Naruto himself just gathered more energy into Chaos Eater, making it glow purple as yellow streaks of energy cackled around it. His golden slit eyes turned cold and merciless, which soon became the eyes of what he is named for. I couldn't agree more, and with that they jumped towards once more. Once they were mere inches from each other, they both swung down their blades, a loud battle cry. Fyasudoraiku, fire strike. Sorashimuryapu, soul reap. Boom. Their second clash made the whole compound itself start to shake uncontrollably. Even Akemi, Kushina and Makoto, who were fighting and defeating the last of the Uchiha, stopped, as did the Uchiha. All before their sights was the giant forming purple sphere that crackled with yellow energy, with flames circling it like a ring, with 3 more of these rings going higher and higher of the whole sphere. The ground broke and shattered, the buildings in the blast radius was blown away, and Uchiha caught in the area were completely incinerated by the intense energies battling each other. Whoa, was the only word that came out of Makoto's mouth, while Kushina and Akemi just nodded dumbfounded. Even she, Akemi Abiju, was shocked at the power being displayed. She had no doubt that sphere alone could severely injure her greatly if she was in her beast form. Naru-kun, you'll make it out okay. You always do. After all this is all over, we can all leave this horrible place, and live the life we've dreamed for. One from all this blood, death, war, all of it, were Kushina's inner thoughts as she watched the sphere of death consume all in its path. They watched captivated as the sphere grew in size, even passing the clouds in the sky itself, before Akemi saw something that made her eyes go completely wide. Shit. Kushina, Makoto, get behind me. Noticing her urgent tone, they did so and jumped behind Akemi. Good thing too, for as Akemi completely transformed into her beast form and circled their bodies with her massive tails, ignoring the painful screams from the surrounding Uchiha from her action. She shrouded herself and the other two in a barrier of her Yukai. The reason she did this? Simple. The sphere of death started to slowly crack. White cracks appeared in the center. As it so, the cracks became even more frequent, and with but a second to spare, and all those that witnessed it, even all of the elemental nations itself. The sphere exploded. Boom. And all hell was unleashed in a cataclysmic explosion which rocked the very foundations of Hai no Kuni itself. The sky itself turned pitch black as the land shook and trembled under the massive explosion, the shockwave going all across the nation, hitting, making every single living thing feel its aftershock. None were killed, but they felt something happened when they all felt the same thing, a rush of wind dying down when it reached all the borders of every nation and hitting the ocean itself. Throughout all this, Kushina, Akemi and Makoto all hoped and prayed Naruto was okay. 10 minutes later. 10 minutes had passed since the explosion, and since then Kushina and Makoto were safely protected by Akemi. The barrier she set up was cracked all around but still held up. They were slightly buried under much rubble, but with a slight flick of Akemi's tails did it all burst into the air and fall completely away from them. Ah, my head, was the pained drawl from Makoto as she rubbed her aching head. Kushina just blinked her eyes rapidly while getting back her vision from the sudden white light that completely filled her vision from before. Akemi herself was silent through it all. Why? Well, we're about to find out, for when Kushina noticed the silence, she looked at Akemi only for her jaw to drop, as did Makoto's when they saw what Akemi was seeing. Akemi was standing in front of them with a shaky finger pointing in front of her. Her eyes were as wide as humanly or demonically possible. In front of her was nothing but pitch black burnt buildings. Rumble from the buildings was completely burnt to a crisp and or turned to ashes. The bodies of the Uchiha were all dead, not a single was alive from the sudden explosion, for they didn't get the protection Kushina and Makoto got. Their bodies burnt, making them all completely unrecognizable. But what really was the eye-catcher was the giant crater where the clan head compound used to be, the size being completely unimaginable. Akemi honestly knew it was bigger than her own beast form. Oh, Kami, Makoto uttered. Kushina snapped out of her stupor before she started running straight to the center of the crater, her eyes filled with fear. Fear of losing the one she loved right when they were so close to leaving the land of death. The fear of losing him forever. Naruto-kun. Her voice resounding through the area, and she jumped into the crater. Frantically searching, she never saw Akemi and Makoto landing in the crater as well, worry in their own eyes. They all started to search the massive crater for any sign of Naruto, only for their hope to start slowly dwindling and slowly be filled with horror. It couldn't be that. Naruto died. Right. Please Kami, please. Don't take him away from me, please Kami-sama, please I beg you. Kushina's praise flowed through the silent wind. Not hearing anything for a while made her slowly start to burst into tears. She pulled her legs up to her chest and sobbed into her knees. Akemi let a tear fall. Not able to feel an energy signature anywhere in the vicinity, she slowly approached her former container and hugged her close, whispering soft words to her. Trying to calm her, but to no avail. For even she was crying. Makoto appeared next to her and hugged her as well while screaming at herself for asking Naruto to do this. She never wanted this happen. Naruto-kun, come back, please come back. I love you so much, please come back to me. We've only just now come to together, please. Please. Her desperate words formed out of her sobs of anguish. Her prayers seemed to be answered in the sound of falling rubble and a grunt of sorts, though they didn't hear of her crying. A hand shot out of the ground before it clenched, and with a slight twitch. Bang! A body rose up from the dirt. It was a different shape than the giant Naruto or clan head Ozai. But when the golden hair showed, it was a dead giveaway. When the man fully rose up from the ground, he bent his neck and rolled it a few times, popping the creaks and such out. He then dusted off his shoulder and clothes before shooting his hand once more into the dirt and pulled out Chaos Eater. Only it now being smaller like the man was. When Naruto looked himself over, he frowned and shook his head. Man didn't expect the seal to go off like that during the clash. Those energies must have disrupted the seal. Guess I'm like this, huh? Oh well. That's when Naruto's ears perked up when he heard the sounds of crying. When he heard the voice of the one crying, though, he froze. Kushina-chan. Looking around the area, he searched frantically until his eyes landed upon the three forms of Akemi, Makoto with Kushina surrounded in their arms, crying into her knees. Using his speed, he quickly approached them, needing to help quell Kushina and see if she was okay. Why, Naru-kun, why did you die? Her words made him frown, and coming up from behind them, he let his shadow slowly come over all of them. Slowly, ever so slowly, he crouched down, idly noting his height was back to a normal 6 feet 5. Looking up at Kushina, Akemi and Makoto, he sighed before speaking. Now Kushi-hime, why would think I'm dead? His words seemed to struck a chord when all three of them froze on the spot. Slowly but assuredly they all turned their heads into his direction, their eyes all widened more so Kushina's, her violet eyes gleamed and glistened from her fallen tears. Fear and terror slowly dissipating and replaced with hope and happiness. Reaching out with her quavering voice alone, Kushina spoke in all but a whisper, but was so filled with hope that if told wrong would break her spirit altogether. In Naru KK-kun. Is it you? The said blonde just smiled warmly. Single quote, comma dot. Of course it is Haim. Did you really think that could kill me? Seriously now, he said, but all he got was a red missile slamming into him, knocking him to the ground. A wet pair of lips smashing into his own. He could see it was Kushina's lip. Her eyes were closed as tears fell from her face. Her arms were wrapped around his neck and grasping his shoulders so tight that he could tell she didn't want to let go anytime soon. But soon his instincts followed, and soon him and Kushina were engaged in a hot, passionate kiss filled with as much love they had for each other. His arms circled her body and lifted her up before circling her legs around his waist. He kept their kiss in pace while doing so, while slowly stroking her red hair. Their tongues lashed out at each other, tasting each other before going back at it. Slowly but assuredly Kushina started to slightly moan in the kiss where he started to stroke her back. Reluctantly they broke apart before Kushina leaned against his muscled chest and sighed happily, her face flushed from their first true kiss. Her eyes were filled with love for the man she was embraced with. Soon enough, though she was asleep against his chest snoring lightly, seeing this Naruto chuckled quietly before looking back at the girls. Only to see to his secret amusement both of them passed out, with nosebleeds, with cherry red faces. Hey, and they call men perverts. Ha ha ha. Seeing the predicament though, he slowly, ever so slowly, made 3 smokeless cage bushins, having to pick up Akemi and Makoto while he substituted with the last without smoke as to not wake his sleeping Haim. After doing so, he looked at his three clones and spoke. Okay, you three, you know where to go. I'll meet you at the village in Nami no Kuni. Get them in their beds, they'll need to sleep for what is to come tomorrow, he said with his eyes on all three of them. The cage Bushins nodded before two of the three jumped away, leaving the one carrying Kushina its creator. And you, boss? Naruto just gave him a stare before speaking. I'm gonna do what I said I would, and that is the complete annihilation of the Uchiha clan, the clone nodded, knowing the underlying message. Seeing this, Naruto nodded before walking up to Kushina. Seeing her sleeping peaceful face, he let out a small sigh before leaning down and kissing her on the cheek. Don't worry, Kushi-hime, yours, and my dream, will become a reality, and I'll fight through the 9 circle of hell and back 100x before I fail that promise. With that, he looked back at the clone. Go. Seeing this, the clone disappeared in a burst of speed. Knowing it was gone, Naruto strapped Chayasiter to his back, channeling chakra to make it stick. He soon jumped out of the crater and landed right on the very end of where the main gate of the Uchiha clan used to be. Seeing the crater was still within the Uchiha area made him sigh in relief. Good, then I can do this all in one go, and before taking a deep breath he stretched out his hands before he narrowed his eyes. He suddenly gripped the air, making it look like he was holding onto a wall of plastic. Now, let the history and all clues of this wretched clan be gone. So with a mighty heave he pulled both his arms downward, knowing what he was doing was nothing compared to other things he has done. He slowly but assuredly smiled when he felt the ground shake and tremble before it suddenly started to shift. He watched impassively as the whole Uchiha district, compound and surrounding forest all suddenly rose up into the air. He smirked cruelly when he saw his work about to be completed. The world will never know the dark history that was the Uchiha clan. He eyes the clan as the slab of land he usually creates was now on a monumental scale of size. It was high in the sky before it slowly started to lean to the left and slowly fall. He grinned as he watched it go down before he swiftly turned around and chuckled. Boom! He felt the wind blow past him from the crash of the land slab slamming into the ground, possibly the shockwave reaching the Fire Country Palace itself. Through it all he just smirked before raised his index finger at the Uchiha main gate. Almost forgot about you, he said before pointing his finger down, making the gates shift as well before they too suffered the same fate of being crushed by the earth itself. Seeing his job done, Naruto sighed before grinning. Well, time to go, and finally be free of the chains that bind us to this land. With that, Naruto's form disappeared, leaving nothing behind. No blood, no dead bodies of countless Uchiha, no shredded buildings or the crater the size of Kyubi. Only a slab of earth looking normal as ever, which could possibly be the new land for some rich merchant or farmer. If only those people knew what lay underneath. 2 hours later, Nami no Kuni village. Upon arriving in the small village in Mai no Kuni, Naruto had come upon a hotel where he knew his clones took the girls into. Walking inside, he lets out a sigh as he looks himself over once more. It would seem his body went down with a major overhaul, from the giant size of 25 feet tall to his normal height of 6 feet 5, with that still unusual height for most people. His giant muscles were now compacted and lean, as his body was now more of a body built for great power and speed. He eyed warily his hand before clenching them as his eyes narrowed. Chayasiter upon his back was as well smaller in length, of being 6 feet 0 in length and 3 feet in width. Didn't expect this to happen. Guess the seal was destroyed when it was exposed to those energies. Guess I'll need to make a new one, he idly noted. That's when he came upon the door number 248. Pulling out a key from his not much ruined baggy pants, he entered it into the lock, and upon twisting it open did he slowly open the door. Only to see Makoto asleep on the couch in the living room, covered up with a small pillow under her head. He eyed her form warily before shaking his head. She proved herself back there, so there was no reason for him to still be suspicious of her. Well, not as much as before. He slowly walked past the kitchen and over to Makoto. Looking down at her, he sighed before pulling the cover that was touching the floor and covered up her feet and her shoulders before adjusting her pillow a bit, but quietly, as to not wake her up. After this he stood up and left, not seeing the soft gentle smile grace Makoto's face and her small murmur. If he did hear it, he would have been frozen on the spot. Naruto-kun. Walking through the hallway, he comes upon the master bedroom, and opens it only to see something that made him let loose a smile. A heartfelt one at that, for the scene before him was truly something he has been dreaming to see for so long now. That being, Kushina, his Haim asleep upon the king-size bed, the sheets covering her figure and over her shoulders. Her pale skin almost glowing in the moonlight, and her maroon long hair sprawled out all on the bed and her body giving her a regal look. He idly noted the little fox kid asleep in her arms, meaning it was Akemi. Letting out a small sigh, he slowly unhooked Chayasiter from his back and leaned it against the wall before removing his boots and shirt. After doing so, he slowly crept onto the other side of the bed and covered himself up in the sheets. Slowly he scooted closer to Kushina before he slowly wrapped his arms around her frame. Ever so slowly he pulled her to him before she was facing him, her face to his own, her body pressed against his own. He smiled at her sleeping face before giving a kiss to her forehead before letting out a sigh. Good night, Kushi Haim. Starting tomorrow, we all start our new lives, no longer separated, but together. His words seemed to be heard as a smile spread across her face. Placing a hand on her cheek, he let his eyes drift off into the dream world, knowing he was together with the one he loved the most and cherished beyond everything in the world. Next morning, narrator's room. Once the yellow blazing sun reached the early morn, its radiant light reached through the window and bathed on the couple in the bed together. It shining on them like a blessing of light that warmed them even more. Once its light reached Kushina's face, her eyes twitched a bit before they opened slightly before closing them from the light of the sun. Letting out a low grumble or two, she blinked the light away and got her vision to normal. Once she did, Kushina looked down in her arms to see her fiend Akemi sleeping away in her kit form. Smiling faintly, she sighed before her eyes widened when she felt another pair of arms wrapped around her body. From the feel of the hard as steel muscled arms wrapped around her fame and the 8-pack abs and full-out muscled chest, she blushed, having a feeling of exactly whose arms she was in. Slowly looking up, she had to stifle a gasp. Naru, Takun, her words filled with so much relief but surprise as else, since she was seeing the face of the one she loved a bit changed now. His body now all smaller than it usually was. His arms slender yet firm, compacted of extreme muscle mass. His ripped cut chest and abs in full view if her own body was pressed against it. Looking up at him, she smiled before placing a hand on his cheek. Leaning forward, she gave him kiss, making the man open his eyes slowly to see her. After a second, he closed them once more before surprising Kushina when he leaned into the kiss and pulled her further to his body. That is before she started to moan in the kiss when his hands started to roam her back and stroke her hair. Naruto-kun, her moan getting longer at his ministrations. Soon enough he pulled her closer to him where their faces were inches from each other before he placed his hand atop hers after separating from the kiss. Kushina sighed lovingly before leaning against his chest, while rubbing one of his hands across his rippled chest. What a wake-up call. His words made her blush a bit before grinning. Looking up, she gave him a mischievous look. You'll get more if you be a good boy. He gave a chuckle at that, which made her blush since his chest just vibrated like a small tremor, giving her a small shock of pleasure down her body. Looking down at her, he gave a toothy grin that threatened to split his face. Hey, sorry, being a good boy isn't my forte, but being a bad boy, I have in spades. His words made her blush a deep bloody scarlet, especially when his hand pinched her butt. Her face grew even redder before she gave an absolutely adorable squeak. Hearing this, he smiled before giving her a kiss on the lips, which she returned with fervor. Her tongue asking for entrance, which he obliged before she probed his mouth, tasting him. Her tongue touched his own before they entered a battle of dominance, which she soon lost. He explored her own mouth, tasting to his amusement ramen of all things. After separating for air, Kushina let out another sigh as her flushed face shone in the light of the sun, giving her an almost divine look. Her violet eyes glowed with love and fulfillment of being with him and him alone. Giving her a smile, he spoke, Kushi Haim, you know as much as I practically love being with you in bed and would want to all day. We all need to get up, it's time we all left. This earned her attention immediately. Leave? Where will we be going, Naruto-kun? Said man just gave her a smile. Before throwing his clothes back on before strapping Chayasiter to his back. After doing so, he looked back at Kushina, seeing her climbing out of her bed and has to suppress a nosebleed when he saw her goddess-like body hidden only by the sheets of the bed. Kushina saw this and blushed a bit before she did something that did make him have a nosebleed. She tried to hide her body, placing her arm over her and cross her legs while blushing cutely. Her violet eyes looked ever so nervous yet embarrassed when she saw him eyeing her body. He quickly wiped the nosebleed away and walked out, hiding his growing blush. While the image of what she just did was burned within his mind and would never leave it. Ever. When she was sure, he left, her face lit up like a Christmas tree before she placed her hands on her cheeks and actually let out a small squeal. Damn Kushi-chan, you are quite the unintentional flirt, aren't you? The teasing voice surprised her, making her look at the bed to see the vulpine grin of Akemi back in her human form, wearing the same of what she wore yesterday. Kushina just sputtered out a response as Akemi just let out a chuckle. With Naruto, we could find him walking out the hallway and into the living room to wake Makoto, only to see her, to his slight surprise, already up and ready. She wore the same as yesterday, but now her eyes showed how eager she was to be getting away from the accursed land for which she has lived in. Giving her a nod, which she slowly returned, giving him a big smile, he just walked past her before saying, Makoto, have Kushina-chan and Akemi as well, and yourself meet me at the docks. We leave when you're all ready. Seeing her confused nod, he kept walking till he opened and closed the door behind him. After she left, Makoto looked at the ground and let out a small smile. She remembered even if he didn't know of what he did last night, and honestly was shocked at what he done. She thought he hated her, but after making sure she was okay and warm, she couldn't be happier of the choice she made of coming with Kushina. 1 hour later, docks. So any idea what Naruto's planning here at the docks? Akemi asked as she rested up Kushina's head in her fox form. She got a negative from both women. They had already left the hotel after hearing Naruto paid for the night and all. So once they left, they headed out to the docks, all wondering of what he was doing, but Kushina already had a suspicion but needed to see it to make sure. Oi! The shout made them all perk up before casting their gazes up to see to their surprise Naruto standing before them, Chayasiter upon his back, but what they saw, what he was standing on, is what got most of their attention, or Kushina's case. Oh my Kami! You got a caravel! Her eyes was wide as possible with a shine in them that just radiated excitement. Akemi just snickered at this while Makoto just giggled. Naruto himself chuckled before speaking, that I did, but let's hurry up, I wanna set sail before the sun fully rises. Hearing this, they nodded before jumping up onto the boat. As their feet touched the hardwood floor, they set out to explore their new vessel and memorized every inch of it. While Naruto himself untied the rope and let loose the sails. He then set out a few cage bushings to start manning the ship while he went to steer, while also waiting on the girls. It didn't take long when they rushed out onto the deck when they felt the boat start to rock and move. Looking down at them, he spoke, "Girls up here." Hearing him, Kushina jumped beside him and spoke. "Naruto-kun, I know we were gonna use a boat and all, but how will we man such a vessel with only ourselves?" He just stared at her before chuckling, before patting her head and ruffling her hair, making her pout cutely. He then pointed down at the sails, which she followed his direction. "Why cage buncheons, of course." She just blinked before smacking her forehead and sighing. Of course, only Naruto would use such an ingenious idea for such a productive chore. Looking back at the amused Naruto, she spoke, "I see." He just smiled before wrapping his arm around her shoulder before he planted a kiss on her cheek. Looking up with a slight blush, Kushina just smiled before leaning against him. Looking down at her, he smiled before looking out at the vast ocean. He inhaled the deep sea breeze as the wind blew his hair. This is just a taste of what he and Kushina dreamed of. A life full of freedom. The chains and shackles that binded them to their bloody past were all but destroyed now, and now were on their way to fulfilling their dream. He looked at Akemi and Makoto. "I never expected though to be taking 2 more women along. Oh well, things will get interesting, that's for sure." He was cut out of his musings though when suddenly, boom, Uzumaki D. Naruto, stop right there and face judgment, was the yell that got his attention. Looking over his shoulder as the explosion of water erupted from the starboard side of the ship. Possibly a cannonball, he saw to his utter hate and wrath. A full-out armada of Iwagakure Navy ships, with the leading one having the Admiral of Iwagakure on the front side of the ship. Damn, They're persistent, they even brought out their ships, Naruto uttered as both Makoto and Kushina gawked at the sight of those countless ships. How does a shinobi village even have ships? And one from Tsuchi no Kuni of all places. Makoto said as more cannonballs sailed past their ship seemingly just to scare them. Naruto himself just twitched every so often. I'd say they had another branch of their village out at the ocean border and made a docking village for their own use. Maybe these for when they attacked Kurigakure maybe. Akemi spoke as she eyed each and every ship behind them. What I want to know is how they knew we would be here. Did one of their spies recognize us? Kushina said, clenching her hand upon the wooden railing while practically glaring at the one thing that was keeping them all from leaving the elemental nations forever. Naruto just walked beside Kushina with his eyes shadowed by his bangs. His fists were clenched so tight blood leaked from both hands, as veins popped out of his arms. The trembling of his arms showed how close he was to his breaking point. Kushina saw him and was about to ask if he was okay. Only to be too late when he reared back his head and practically roared. You Kami forsaken bastards. I warned you to leave me alone. But no, your foolish ignorant pathetic Tsuchikage is too damn adamant to have my head. Well, guess what? You won't be leaving here alive. Any of you. His words echoing across the open sea and making the shinobi upon the Iwa ships tremble. Looking at the girls to his right, they saw his golden slit eyes now glowing a fiery gold. Kushina, Makoto hold on and Akemi hold the wheel. Things are about to get very destructive. Hearing this, Akemi's eyes widened before she jumped to the wheel as Kushina and Makoto latched onto the railing. Seeing this, he reared his gaze back at the armada and raised both his arms. You fools chased me, and you shall pay the price. This event shall be remembered as our leaving of the elemental nations. All shall bear witness to your death. Say hell to Shinigami-sama for me. He then without warning clenched his fist and crouched with his arms across his chest. Then without a second later he reared them back. Only for both of his fists hit the air, making cracks appear, and without a moment to waste a sudden shockwave erupted from him and right into the ocean itself. The Iwagakure would forever burn it into their minds of Naruto's golden fiery slitted orbs glaring down on all of them as is the ocean floor that floated upon their entire armada of fully packed ships of Iwagakure shinobi. Were all but swallowed and crushed by monumental tidal waves that rose up from both of their sides. They reached past the sky itself and came crashing down onto them as a giant whirlpool appeared under them. Their screams of horror and anguish rang loud and true. The sounds of boats being crushed and swirling water sounded the area. The three women watched in utter shock and amazement at the sight they just beheld, even as the aftershocks of the event rocked the boat. They couldn't speak a word at what they just witnessed. An entire armada of ships completely and utterly destroyed. By the very waters they sailed upon. It was ironic, really. The very sea itself they swore to sail acted in total betrayal and crushed them beneath their endless pressure of water. Seeing them gone, Naruto let his hands loose before turning around only to see the three girls gawking at him like he was some sort of god. He blinked before chuckling. You gonna just keep staring at me like that? He said, amused really at how they were acting. Sure, he too was shocked at what his powers could do in water, but soon got over it and acted normal a few days later. Even if he did accidentally swallow a whole mountain with a wave of water. It was an accident, of course, and a result of him practicing his power on open water. Upon reaching the wheel, he gave Akemi a grateful nod before letting out a sigh. Well, let our new life begin. Hope you girls are ready. He soon got his answer when suddenly. Naruto-kun, that was so cool. Kushina's shout erupted before her form was on his back, her arms wrapped around his neck with an excited grin upon her face. Makoto just gave a grin herself after witnessing what she just saw. She was totally assured now going with Naruto was the best possible choice she ever made. It was sure to be adventurous, especially with him around. Akemi was beside Naruto in a second, her eyes practically shining like two pair of stars. You have got to teach me that, was her reply before she shifted into her kit form and sat upon his head, nuzzling into his golden black streaked hair. Naruto just let out a sigh while he steered the ship onward away from the elemental nations. Never looking back at the land that has caused him and Kushina so much pain. He would never look back at the land he would rather tear asunder, but would now just live a new life with the ones around him and the one he loves so much. Though he would soon find out Kushina wasn't the only girl to gain his love during this new life.